Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Before Rimuru could respond, we heard a massive thunderclap booming out. Both of us turned back to the arena and were flabbergasted. Did he just? Rimuru muttered. I nodded. He did. In front of us, Veldora had his fist struck out as he smirked victoriously. Veldora just punched Velzard's frost breath away. The sheer shockwave of his punch was enough to disrupt the frost breath from enveloping him. I did sense Veldora shift the probabilities in his favor for that tactic of his to work though, so it wasn't like his fists were the sole reason that worked. But still, in essence, Veldora just punched his problem away. I noticed Velzard didn't seem to mind. She just looked amused. She really was toying with Veldora. Foo-fa-foo, how amusing. Very good, Veldora. Velzard then snapped her fingers and froze the entire floor of the arena in a thicker, far stronger ice that wouldn't be easily shattered. Raising her palm up in a graceful movement, she conjured up her next attack. From the ground below Veldora, countless massive ice spikes all rose from the ground. All of them ended in incredibly fine points, yet as Veldora moved, the ice spikes all sprouted like the branches of a tree and shot out at him in all directions. Wherever Veldora moved, another ice spike would rise to attack him, followed by the countless spikes that continued to grow and expand in his direction. Slowly but surely, Veldora was being surrounded by a wall of frozen thorns. It was basically a game of cat and mouse, and judging by Velzard's smile, she was enjoying it. Gah! I'm done with this game of yours, sister, cried out Veldora. As he shouted, I sensed a change in him as he started using Faust to its fullest capabilities. Come then, Veldora, encouraged Velzard. And so began the clash between true dragons. The wall of frozen thorns surrounding Veldora exploded as he ran a massive current of lightning through the ice. And then, just as before, he exploded towards Velzard, leaving the loud booming of thunder in his wake. Lightning and thunder continued to flash and boom as the two clashed, accompanied by constant waves of frost. Unlike before, Velzard slowly began to land attacks on Veldora since Faust only allowed Veldora to double the odds of something against someone equal or stronger than him. Velzard, however, managed to avoid all of Veldora's attacks, and she did not let Veldora catch her off guard again. Frost would cover the area before being replaced by a black lightning storm. Velzard would freeze the rain, and so on. A loop of ice and lightning. Take this, sister, cried Veldora as he aimed his extended nails towards Velzard's chin. Dragon Claw. Velzard squinted her eyes before they widened. Seeing the danger of Veldora's claws, he had imbued them with his dividing ability, which allowed him to pierce through practically anything. She managed to avoid Veldora's attack, but in the midst of dodging, the trajectory of Veldora's attack changed. It was aimed towards her hair. Perfect, he hasn't forgotten about the deal we made. Velzard seemed to assume Veldora simply messed up his aim as he cut off some of her hair. An annoyed expression appeared on Velzard's face as she reached to adjust and fix her newly regrown hair. Veldora could not have done his job any better. I discreetly manipulated space so that those strands of hair would fall into my infinity space. That good enough, Odin? Affirmative. Beginning analysis of the Frost Dragon factor. Excellent. It seems that you still have a lot to learn, little brother. For your aim to be that inaccurate and sloppy. It seems that I need to be a little harsher on you now, muttered Velzard. Veldora's face paled. Wait. That was on purpose. I promise. Before Veldora could finish his sentence, Velzard blurred forward and appeared in front of him, slapping him to the side, sending him to the other side of the arena. That had to hurt. I was quite proud of you before you made such a simple mistake, Veldora. It would shame me as your sister if I did not correct you for such a thing. And so Veldora's beating began. It wasn't hard to get Odin something to work with so she could also begin analyzing Veldora's Storm Dragon factor. The dude was leaving blood everywhere. Velzard was not pulling her punches now. And she hadn't even begun using any of her more overpowered abilities like temporal manipulation. It's a shame that Velzard hasn't used anything all that special for me to copy and replicate. Though maybe that had been on purpose, given I was watching the fight. Back when I was sparring with Guy, I originally wanted to try out some new applications of temporal manipulation that Odin was able to come up with, like slowing down time for everyone else while my time remained the same, but then I decided to hold off on that for now. Odin had been doing some deep dive analysis of the possible ways I could manipulate time. She even theorized it was possible to rewind time itself. I sure as hell wish that I had that kind of ability back when Hinata was basically dying. But still, I had hoped that soon enough, if something similar happened, I would be able to reverse it. Notice. Beginning analysis of the Storm Dragon factor. We all walked out of the arena, Veldora now fully healed up by a full potion. You did quite well, Veldora, except for that earlier mistake. I am quite impressed, said Velzard. Thank you, sister. Veldora stuttered out. I'm pretty sure that the beating she just gave him only increased Veldora's fear of Velzard. You have done well to train your power. You are no longer the bumbling berserker you used to be. Well done, I look forward to your progress, said Velzard with a fond smile. Ah, look at that, she does care. Don't worry, I'll make sure to get you tons of new manga for your efforts. Veldora seemingly got my message as his face brightened up. Yes, sister. I am satisfied with my visit to Tempest so far, Demon Lord Rimuru. Velzard said while looking at Rimuru. Please continue to take care of my foolish younger brother. Rimuru nervously rubbed the back of his head. Don't worry, I'll make sure Veldora doesn't get into trouble. Velzard nodded, satisfied. Now I heard tales of you taking on a student little brother? Veldora nodded. Indeed. Zijin has been taking to my Veldora-style killing arts like a charm. Veldora-style killing arts? Asked Velzard, seemingly confused. Ah, he basically created a martial arts style and named it that. I interrupted. Velzard nodded. I see. Velgrand had done much the same in the past. Very well, I would like to meet this student of your Veldora. I have heard he is an insectoid. When nurtured properly, they can reach truly fearsome heights. Gaha. Got it. I'll go introduce you to him, said Veldora. And with that, the two siblings left. What's an insectoid? Asked Rimuru. For once, I didn't blame Rimuru for being clueless, even I didn't know what exactly an insectoid was, though I did know their traits, just not the intricate details about the species itself. Insectoids are species coming from a different dimension. What? Seriously? I nodded. Yup. So Zijin is from another race then, huh? And maybe Apido, too? Ah, Apido is Zijin's friend, right? Rimuru nodded. Well, she is a wasp-type insectoid. I didn't think Zijin had such otherworldly origins, said Rimuru. It isn't that uncommon. Us otherworlders are similar. Rimuru shrugged his shoulders. I guess. I'll have to ask Zijin a bit more about that stuff, though. When I found him, he was injured, and I had to infuse some of myself into him so he could heal. I wonder why he was so injured then? I just assumed it was from a monster attack. You seriously didn't ask? Rimuru looked away and began whistling. I rolled my eyes. You're hopeless. Did you want me to take you back to the ice continent? I asked. Velzard had just returned from her meeting with Zijin along with Veldora. She seemed to be quite satisfied. Velzard shook her head. No, I am quite capable of teleporting back on my own. I nodded. Got it. I will be seeing you, Felix, Velzard said as a bright light enveloped her, teleporting her away. Well, that happened. Rimuru voiced out. I nodded. That did indeed happen. I turned to Veldora, and stacks of books appeared in my hands. Here, this one is called Demon's Lair. Veldora eagerly took the manga from me. Gaha. Yes. Thank you, my friend. Veldora then looked at Rimuru. You also owe me more sacred texts, Rimuru. Rimuru sighed but nodded. Yeah, I'll make them and have them sent to you later. Veldora nodded. I will be leaving now. I want to start reading these. See ya. Wanna hang out? Asked Rimuru. I rolled my eyes. You're just looking for an excuse to slack off, but sure. I wanted to tell you about something anyway. Rimuru pumped his fist. Yes, Velzard. Velzard appeared in the throne room of the Ice Palace. Oh? You're already back, huh? Guy called out casually, eating some food Misery had prepared for him. She turned around to face him, not forgetting her ire for him from earlier. I am back, yes. She responded, her tone clipped and even. So, how is Veldora? Asked Guy, seemingly not sensing her displeasure with him. Still, she decided to humor him. It seems Felix was telling the truth. My little brother has grown up, she said with a smirk. Really? How strong is he now? Asked Guy. I'd say about even with Velgrand. Guy's eyes widened. Seriously? He improved a lot then. I remember their fight on the continent that Eldorado is on, and Velgrand easily sent him running. Velzard nodded. Back then, he was all raw power, no skill. He would use his massive magical capacity and just throw around power with no finesse. Now, he has skill and can properly use his power. Still not a match for you, though. Guy laughed out. Foo-fa-foo, I would not be the eldest sister if I was so easy to defeat. That's true. If Veldora was able to defeat you, I'd be very worried. Said Guy. Her abilities were a hard counter to Veldora's. The ability to decelerate anything was a very powerful ability. She could halt practically anything. She was able to use it in combination with Gabriel to create her ultimate defense. Veldora has an ultimate skill now, she mentioned. Guy's eyes widened slightly. What? Velzard nodded with a proud smile. Indeed, he acquired an ultimate skill all on his own. Even she and her sister could not say the same about their own ultimate skills. She was gifted Gabriel, Lord of Patience, due to her compatibility with it, while Velgrand was gifted Ragal, Lord of Charity, due to Ragal aligning with Velgrand's nature. Two skills part of the Angelic series skills her elder brother created, two of the Virtue series to be exact. Veldora was the first true dragon to acquire an ultimate skill on his own, excluding their elder brother. Well, that alone shows his progress. Do you know what it does? Guy said, acknowledgement in his tone. Guy would always respect Veldora if only for his raw power, but that is all. Guy wouldn't give a second thought to Veldora other than that, but now that Veldora had an ultimate skill, he had Guy's true acknowledgement. After all, in Guy's eyes those without an ultimate skill or are incapable of fighting at the ultimate level through sheer skill don't truly matter. Velzard nodded. It seems to have some kind of analysis abilities as well as the ability to make things more likely to happen. So basically some kind of luck skill? Asked Guy. Velzard shrugged her shoulders. Perhaps. Guy nodded. I see. A true dragon's attacks were capable of reaching the ultimate level due to the nature of their existence. When that natural power was combined with an ultimate skill, a true dragon's danger level would increase astronomically. Veldora was the only one among them who did not possess an ultimate skill, and now that he had one, he would pose a significant threat to any that desired to fight him. He had even managed to surprise her enough to cut off some of her hair. She laughed when she thought back to Veldora taking a student. Something the matter? She shook her head. No, it is just that Veldora took a student. I never pictured that happening. Neither did I. He is an insectoid as well, an insector to be exact. He has evolved past his juvenile form, she said. She had gone to meet Veldora's student, and he was quite interesting. He was not that powerful, not even on the awakened demon lord level, but he was very enthusiastic when it came to training and growing stronger. He said he wished to be more useful to Rimuru, an admirable trait for a subordinate to possess. Seriously? Just what is going on? An insectoid here in the cardinal world? That does not paint a good picture. Could Zelenus be prepping for an invasion? Velzard shrugged her shoulders. Perhaps. However, I do not think that Zejan, the insector, is involved in his plan. He was very loyal to Rimuru and also looked up to Veldora. And an insector that weak and that young is incapable of deceiving me. He had potential, though. No, I think his arrival in this world is a coincidence. He may have fallen through a spatial distortion and appeared in this world. Guy nodded. Perhaps. I'll just keep an eye out. Did you go to Felix's territory? Guy continued. Velzard nodded. Yes. He introduced me to some of his subordinates. Did you meet those three? Guy asked with some amusement. 3 of his fellowkin serving a single man was truly an oddity. She nodded. I did. Arcuaid seems to be the one who manages Felix's territory for him. Megaman seems to train the military and perhaps lead it, and then Lalitina is in charge of intelligence. They seem to be doing fairly well for themselves. They are each quite powerful now that they have been incarnated and named. Arcuaid seems to be in a deathman body, while the other 2 are in a bone golem made of extremely high-end materials. Guy sighed. I see. At least those 3 aren't going out of control. Felix seems to have them well tamed somehow. Velzard laughed. Indeed, it looked as if they were eating out of the palm of his hand. His other subordinates were fairly impressive as well. A dragon lord, a wicked Unna, a nod mutation of a demon, another demon, and then a cryptid. All on the demon duke level, if not higher. Tell me about it. Though I didn't know he had other demons on the demon duke level other than those 3. That guy is seriously building one hell of a force under him. And you said he had a cryptid under him? A cryptid and an insector in this world at once? Both serving under 2 demon lords? How odd. Responded Guy. Velzard nodded. Indeed, I was also quite surprised to find one of them in this world. She was intelligent as well and had assumed a humanoid form, which speaks of her power. How intriguing. He really is getting more and more interesting. First, his ability to copy skills, and then his seemingly natural combat talent. Velzard nodded. He did copy my skill, perhaps that was how he learned to move in the suspended world as well as activate time stop. Guy nodded. You're probably right. Well, it's a good thing I have him on my side then. Velzard nodded, realizing that she had accidentally gotten carried away when talking with Guy because she had been excited about Veldor's progress. He is powerful. Now I will be going, do not disturb me, Guy. She told him coldly, the least he could do was learn his lesson. And he wouldn't if she just forgave him now. Guy looked at her in confusion. Okay? She rolled her eyes, the dunce. She made her way to the lounge. Once she was there, she sat down on a frozen couch, which still remained surprisingly comfortable. She took out the book that Felix had given her. A Day in the Life of Veldoro Tempest? What a quaint name. She said with a smile as she turned the first page. Arcuaid, you said that someone entered our lord's territory? I assume you would not bring this to my attention unless this invader has bypassed our border posts and failed to go through the necessary procedures. Her beloved lord had wished to have more control over who entered his territory, so he had outposts built at all of the roads and entrances that led directly into this territory. When passing by, one is supposed to pay a small fee as well as register their identity with the guards, though it is possible to bypass this with a special pass that is given to merchants and other important visitors so as not to hold them up. Lalatina lounged across from her. Yup. He snuck right by the border outpost and seems to be headed right to Master's castle. Cried Lalatina. He was stronger than the rest of the trash. Master seems to want Megamen to train up. Glenda spotted him, and then I went to double check. She looked at Lalatina with interest. Oh? How strong exactly? Not as strong as any of Master's other stronger subordinates, but almost at that level. I am not capable of measuring the precise amount of energy within someone's body like Master can, but I'd say a little weaker than Moss is, at least energy-wise. Arcuaid raised a brow. That is quite interesting. Not many could claim to be that powerful in this world, and those that do would know well enough to follow the proper procedures to visit our lord's territory unless they are his friends. Well, I've never met the guy, I can tell you that. Master hasn't ever mentioned someone like him. He was very sloppy at hiding his intent. It was easy to tell he was coming here to cause trouble. Said Lalatina. I see. It seems I will not be able to send those other worlders our lord decided to take pity on. It would be a waste of resources to send those other worlders to simply die. They had joined the common military in their training, and each was very dedicated to growing stronger, seeming to not want their free will taken from them ever again. She could not complain. The stronger they got, the more useful they would be to her lord. Though Glenda seemed to know of him. Lalatina mentioned offhandedly. Oh? What did she know? Glenda knew quite a lot about the inner workings of the Western nations as a former subordinate of Gran Bloroso. She said he was known as Vega of Power, one of the three heads of Cerberus. Said Lalatina. She sat up straight. Cerberus? Is that not the criminal group our lord informed us about? The group that was led by Yoki Kagorazaka before our lord purged him? Yes, it seems to be the same group. From what Glenda knew, Vega of Power was said to be a brute, all brawn and no brains. She didn't know much about the inner operations of Cerberus, all she had was his general characteristics. Finished Lalatina. That alone does not paint a good picture. Perhaps he was sent to get revenge for the killing of Yoki Kagorazaka? If so, then this Cerberus organization is more foolish than I thought. To think someone as weak as Vega is capable of causing any sort of inconvenience to our lord is a foolish mistake. Lalatina then got up off the couch. Well, do whatever you want, I've done my job, I'll trust you to do yours. Arcuaid firmly nodded. Very well, thank you, Lalatina. Lalatina was very professional when it came to fulfilling the role that her lord had given, even ignoring her new nature. She would rather die than disappoint their lord. Something Arcuaid could respect and acknowledge. Now, how should she handle this? She could send someone to take care of this threat, but she decided to go in person to deal with this invader. Perhaps she will take her target alive and interrogate him. If he truly was sent by this Cerberus organization, knowing what plans they had for her lord would be helpful. Her lord had told her to do what she wished in these circumstances. He said he did not wish to micromanage her, and so she would do what she wished. First, she would need to locate this invader though. Her senses were not nearly as attuned as her lord's. Moss. Her closest attendant appeared beside her. My lady. He bowed in reverence. I wish for you to locate someone for me. Moss's unique skill was very well suited for surveillance work as well as discreet assassinations. He could easily scour her lord's entire territory and come back to her with what she needed. Yes, mistress. She described Vega's looks to Moss. Now she would just need to wait. I have located him, mistress. She heard Moss call out. She nodded. Take me to him. Moss nodded and teleported the both of them to where Vega was located. It seems he was camping out in the wilderness, close to where the old roads were. The old roads stopped being used after her lord with the help of Lord Rimuru reconstructed far safer and more useful roads that connected Azeroth to various kingdoms and territories. He is ahead, mistress. Very well, stay close by, and if a battle begins, make sure to contain the damage. She ordered. Moss bowed lowly. As you wish, mistress. She sauntered forward, past the trees, and spotted a camp. She had not bothered to suppress her presence, so the man should be aware of her. She sensed that he was inside the tent he had set up. She heard a deep laughter come from ahead of her. The tent opened and out came a muscular brutish-looking man. Gahaha, fresh meat delivered itself right to my door. She rolled her eyes at the brute's words. It seems you will not be cooperating then. She voiced out. The man's grin widened. Why would I cooperate when I have such a juicy meal in front of me? Good, I was looking to let off some steam, as it were. She said with a bewitching smile on her face. Lalatina's analysis was correct. The man, Vega, held slightly less energy than Moss did, though she did sense something odd about him. He did not seem quite human. It seemed he had taken in the factor of some monsters and somehow mutated. Arcuaid was not certain what sort of abilities to expect from Vega. She did desire to capture him so she could not go all out and erase him from existence. There were many ways to knock the man unconscious or bind him, even if he did have some unique abilities due to taking in a monster factor. Are you a subordinate of the Demon Lord of this territory? Asked Vega. She nodded. I am one of Demon Lord Felix's subordinates. Vega smirked, hearing her. Good, then perhaps I can learn just how strong he is based on the strength of his subordinates. She raised a brow at his cocky remark. She was suppressing the majority of her power, only allowing a small amount of it to seep out of her, so she supposed she could understand why this man thought he had a chance against her. Oh? Do you mean to perhaps assault my lord? She asked, a dangerous hint to her tone. Vega only laughed in response. Exactly that. If he proves to be too weak, then I'll devour him whole. She could feel cold rage pulse through her entire being. She would not allow such disrespect to her lord. She released her Demon Lord's haki ever so slightly, causing Vega to gasp at the pressure. She appeared in front of Vega, who had fought off a fraction of her haki. Unfortunately, his reaction speed could not help him defend against her. She was simply far too fast for his perception. She raised her hand and lowered it on Vega's left arm in a cutting motion, causing Vega to scream out in pain. She would have normally killed him for the disrespect shown to her lord, but she had not forgotten her priorities. Vega could be killed after he gave her lord all the information he had. Now that she knew that Vega was here to kill her lord or something similar, the likelihood of it being Cerberus that sent him here had gone up. You bitch. You'll pay for that. Vega roared. My, it is quite impressive that you have managed to hold yourself together under a fraction of my Demon Lord's haki. Even if I was holding back. She commented. She watched as his arm regrew. How intriguing. He had a fairly powerful healing factor then. Her surprise only grew when the other half of his arm that she had chopped off also grew. In front of her, the arm regrew into a full body, good as new, other than the fact that it had no ego to speak of and seemed to be a simple monster in human form. In front of her now were two identical-looking men. Vega looked at his other self with desire in his eyes. Before his monster self could react and rampage around, Vega, the original, grabbed the shoulder of the monster and began absorbing him. Come. Your power shall become mine. A moment later, the monster that had grown from Vega's arm was no more, instead Vega's total energy had risen by a very slight amount. She quickly thought of all the possible reasons for such a thing. The most likely scenario was that Vega could gain a portion of the power of the beings he seemed to be able to consume. His earlier comments about calling her a meal and devouring her lord did align with that theory. Her mind then went in another direction. Those monsters that grew from Vega's chopped-off body parts, could they perhaps be used as incarnation mediums? Her lord was not lacking in magisteel, but any way to conserve resources was something that was her duty to pursue. She would think about everything further once she had captured this intruder. She lowered her thought acceleration and quickly came up with a plan to disable Vega. Spiritrons were known to disable lower levels of regeneration, which Vega had. The only individual she knew of that had higher tier regeneration were the true Demon Lord class individuals, and this Vega was far from that. While she was no master at manipulating Spiritrons, she had picked things up over her long life. She converted her anger at this bug's insolence into energy, and then focused her killing intent onto Vega. She was quite impressed that Vega managed to stay standing with a bit of effort. Her killing intent was enough to kill any below the A rank with just her gaze alone. She finally got serious and cut off all of Vega's limbs in a singular motion and halted his regeneration with chains laced with spirits she forced into submission before he could even scream, leaving him a simple torso. She then placed a collar on him that is meant to inhibit the circulation of magicules within the body, leaving Vega powerless. Now, to inform her lord about this, perhaps he will even praise her. Chapter 132, Brahma. I tagged along with Rimuru as we made our way to the laboratory in the dungeon. According to Diablo, the demons he had brought were now fully incarnated and ready to serve. I was somewhat curious as to who Diablo recruited. Arcuaid, Lalatina, and Megaman recruited most of the notable members of their lineage that could be useful. I imagine that Diablo also has some useful fellows under him that he makes use of. I was somewhat interested to meet some other demons of the Black lineage. That was the lineage I was a part of, after all. The only demons from my lineage that I had met were Diablo, who was a bit eccentric, and Britta, who was a very serious but understanding demon. So, how many demons did Diablo recruit? 700. Responded Rimuru. That's quite a lot. Do you have any idea what you are going to do with them? Rimuru nodded. Sort of. I was thinking of making an elite unit composed entirely of demons, Tempest's most elite attack force, the Black Numbers. Other than the Chuni-ass name, that sounds like a good idea. You will definitely gain quite a lot of archdemons after naming those demons, and each of those is a certified country destroyer. When they all work together in a proper cohesive fashion, it would make for a deadly force. Yeah, that's what I thought too. What exactly do you have your demons doing? Asked Rimuru. I have them pretty split up. The more combat-oriented ones are under Megaman in the military. There is an elite unit filled with them, and then I also have some demons as commanders of some squadrons and in other leadership positions in the army. Then the more administrative aligned ones are with Arcuaid, and the ones more keen on assassination and information gathering are under Lalatina. I see. You got them working to their talents, huh? I nodded. Yeah, though keep in mind that most of the demons are working under their respective primordial. Their natures and talents line up with that of their primordials in a lot of cases. Megaman's dependents are all skilled and prefer direct combat. Arcuaid's dependents are good at planning, scheming, and management. Lalatina's dependents are good at information gathering and discreet killings. Rimuru gave me a look. Discreet killings? Really? Saying assassination over and over again is lame. I retorted. Sure. So how are those other worlders that wanted to serve you after you didn't kill them? Asked Rimuru. I think they are doing pretty alright. Most of them joined the military and are currently undergoing Megaman's, let's say, laborious training. That girl's training may as well be considered torture for most, but those other worldlers are taking it without complaint. They had a chance to acquire real power, to make sure they weren't stripped of their freedom ever again, so they grabbed that chance with both hands and refused to let go. They are already pretty strong as most other worlders are, a ranked especially, with some have already broken through into the so-called S-class rank that Tempest coined. S-class is what one was called when their EP was between 400,000 and 800,000 range, basically disaster class. My Demon Duke subordinates were in this rank, excluding Arcuaid, Lalatina, and Megaman. Those three were in the million class, as well as a few other subordinates of mine. Though those among the other worlders that were in S-class were at the very bottom of it, but disaster class is disaster class. It was amusing to see that I had a rank in Tempest's database. Catastrophe class, a ranking based not on just EP, but overall combat power. To be in this rank one needed to have combat power in the domain of the true dragons, or at least approaching that domain. It did boost my ego a bit. I was well aware that I was a bit prideful about my strength. Even if I basically cheated my way to my level of strength, I was still proud of what I had attained. Odin is my power. Plus, if you aren't cheating, you are trying. I see. Well, it's good to see that those unfortunate souls are doing well. Said Rimuru. They are all eagerly training, wanting to create their future with their own hands. According to Arcuaid, none were at risk of turning traitors. All of them were extremely grateful to me for sparing them when I had no reason to, and then on top of that, freeing them from their bindings. Oftentimes, desperate people latch on to the first hope they have, and they stay latched on. Though Arcuaid still had them sign contracts as an extra measure, it didn't help that the benefits I offered were very good. Access to the reward center where they can exchange points for higher level stuff like arts, spells, sword arts, and everything else in between. Then there was the good food they could order for a very low amount of points, and the paid vacation and days off they got. I really was a good boss. All of the benefits I offer are easily paid for, too. I wasn't lacking money. The vault I got from Clayman was still very, very full. Then there were the taxes that were collected, the tolls and various fees visitors had to pay, and then of course the trade that my territory partook in. All in all, my territory was doing damn well for itself. I was even a bit proud, even if I didn't do the majority of the work. What about Kenya? I asked. Kenya? What about him? Rimuru asked, confused. Elmjia seemed to want to take him on as a student due to his potential to become a true hero. Ah, that's right. How do you know about that? Elmjia brought it up to me. Rimuru nodded. I see. Well, I asked Kenya for his opinion, and he was eager to learn from Elmjia. It seems that hearing that Chloe had gone on her own adventure made him want to go on one of his own. Learning from Elmjia would do a lot for the kid. For one, he'd likely always have Elmjia and, by extension, Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian in his corner. That's not even mentioned that Elmjia would likely make for a damn good teacher. Yeah, I'll have to have him escorted to Sarian sometime soon. He's been bugging me about it non-stop. Said Rimuru. I was planning to visit Sarian sometime. I can take him if you want. I offered. Elmjia owed me multiple favors at this point as well. I wasn't sure what exactly to use them on, but perhaps visiting Sarian would give me some ideas. Really? That would be great, then. Kenya seems to like you quite a bit, you know. Says that seeing a real demon lord in person was awesome. Rimuru said with a pout. I chortled. Ha. A real demon lord, huh? The hidden meaning was obvious. Kenya didn't see Rimuru as intimidating or anything that the title of demon lord should confer. I'll pick him up before I go then. Though I'm not exactly sure when that will be. That's fine. I'll keep building up his foundations until you are ready. Rimuru responded. Before long, we arrived at the laboratory. Towards the back, I could see a bunch of Magisteel golem skeletons that were not being used. I'm assuming those are the extras. Lord Rimuru. Diablo appeared in front of Rimuru, already kneeling before him. Diablo. I have taken the initiative to have the demons moved into the extra room. Responded Diablo. Rimuru nodded. Good, that room should be large enough for them to gather and for me to officially meet them all. Diablo looked at me and nodded. Lord Felix. Diablo. I saw Dino working on something with Vesta off in the corner. He spotted me and waved, and I waved back. Did you want to come with me, Felix? Asked Rimuru. I nodded. Yeah, not much else to do at the moment. I also wanted to see if any of the demons Diablo recruited had or would develop any interesting skills which Odin could analyze. This was the best time to give all of them a scan since they were all together. Alright, follow me then. Rimuru led me to the spare room attached to the laboratory. When Rimuru was showing us around, he said that the room was created to test any of the larger and more destructive experiments, like massive wargolems and the like, so the room was pretty empty, but it was magically reinforced. Odin. Acknowledged. I could feel Odin gathering the data for various skills, various common and extra skills, but none of the demons present had any unique skills bar one. A single demon had a unique skill, which wasn't surprising. Most of Arcuaid, Megaman, and Lalitina's lieutenants had unique skills, but they were either demon dukes or on the cusps of becoming a demon duke. They had powerful egos. This demon, however, was a mere greater demon from what I sensed. A mere greater demon with a unique skill is unheard of in all but two cases, mine and the old man's. The one thing we had in common was that we were reincarnated, and we had powerful souls. Could this greater demon also be someone who reincarnated? How interesting. I zeroed in on the greater demon with a unique skill. He was standing towards the front of the crowd of demons and was now looking at Diablo nervously. If he is an otherworlder, he may have had a bit of an ego that Diablo had to beat out of him. In that case, fearing Diablo a healthy amount was normal. Diablo was a scary guy, after all. Lord Rimuru. All the demons kneeled down at once. Rimuru looked down at them nervously, while Diablo looked like a proud parent. I'm sure he made them do that. I did notice that all of the demons here were part of Diablo's lineage. I guess he didn't want to recruit from other lineages due to the potential conflicting loyalties. Thanks for deciding to serve me, I guess. Seeing as you are all here, I assume you all agree to the terms and conditions Diablo told you about, so I'll be naming you all now. Said Rimuru. Since none of the demons spoke up, Rimuru took that as an agreement. Rimuru walked to the front and began listing off names left and right. I walked over to Diablo. You see that demon there? I pointed to the potential otherworlder. Diablo followed my finger and nodded. Ah, that one? Yes. Is something the matter? If he displeases you, then as my master's best friend, I am more than willing to purge him for you. Ah, nothing like that. I was just a bit curious about him. He seems to have a unique skill, something definitely abnormal for a mere greater demon. Diablo nodded. Indeed. That is what caught my interest in the first place. He was leading a group of 100 lesser demons and greater demons when I came across him. He challenged me to a fight in which he lost. He was arrogant, but when he saw the difference between us, he quickly submitted. He seemed to have potential, so I brought him with me in the hopes that he would be useful to Lord Rimuru. I nodded. I see. I'll have to talk to him later. It seems he has been named. Voiced out Diablo. I nodded. I heard, Venom, huh? Can you ask him to come see me once he wakes up from his evolution? Diablo nodded. As you wish. Tell Rimuru I'm going to hang out with Veldora and Ranmaris. I've gotten bored just watching Rimuru name demons. Diablo's lips twitched, but he nodded nonetheless. I took that as my cue to leave. As I was leaving, I spotted Dino waving me over, and I walked over to him. Felix. I raised a brow. Dino, what did you need? Dino nervously rubbed the back of his head. Well, I wanted to know how Milim was doing. The two of us aren't close like that, so I always used to ask Ranmaris about Milim, but from what I've heard, you and Milim are pretty close. Milim? Well, she's doing fine, I think. Frey has been making her do work, much to Milim's dismay, but she's getting it done. She may whine about it, but in the end, she will do what is best for her people. Hearing me, Dino gained a smile on his face and sighed in relief. I see. If you are really that curious, you can ask her yourself, you know. Milim is always open to making new friends. In fact, I'm pretty sure she already sees you as a friend somewhat. Dino sighed once again. Well, you're probably right. He muttered, his eyes dulling slightly as he looked down. I could sense numerous emotions in his tone, guilt, sadness, rage, and a bunch of other messy things. I didn't want to get involved in that at all. Dino and I weren't close whatsoever. We weren't even friends. The guy is billions of years old. I'm sure he can figure his own things out. Anyways, I'll see ya. Dino nodded. See you, Felix. Oh, and thanks. I appreciate it. No problem. Lord Felix. Lord Diablo said to visit you. I heard a somewhat hesitant voice call out. I looked up from the book in front of me to Venom. He looked down at the book. I apologize for interrupting you, Lord Felix. I waved him off. No need to apologize, I was just messing around. I was currently in the laboratory lounge. Those scientists did need breaks from time to time, and they had pretty good food in the cafeteria. I looked back down to the book. While I was waiting, I created a few spells of mass destruction and wrote them down to possibly put into the reward center. These were spells that I created entirely on my own without Odin's help, excluding the massive amount of magical knowledge I possessed due to Odin's analysis and understanding of the world. One of the spells I created was under the ice magic branch. It involved using ice magic to imitate a cold fusion reaction, creating a massive explosion of freezing energy that devastates a large area. This can easily be scaled to continental levels of destruction. Everyone needs a hobby, and one of mine just happened to be spell creation. I felt very accomplishing to create a powerful spell on my own. No matter how useful and overpowered Odin is, she did make it feel a bit too easy to do basically anything combat-related. It was hard to feel fulfilled. So, I made up for it with other things since I wasn't willing to risk my combat prowess on something like that. Playing music as well as things like creating spells and such, made me feel like I did still have some magical know-how and wasn't entirely reliant on Odin's abilities. I wasn't completely hopeless without her, which was something I could feel satisfaction in. Apologies. I sighed. No need to apologize, Odin. Without you, I know for a fact that I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be as happy and satisfied with my life as I am now. Sometimes, it's just nice to relax and create things with my own merit and understanding, to feel like I do deserve all this power I hold. No need to be so serious, Odin. No matter what, know that I appreciate you. Acknowledged. Good. No more pouting, don't deny it. I can hear it in your tone. It is the master's imagination. Liar. Lately, I've felt like Odin has become more and more emotional, more and more expressive. She almost seemed human. Something that terrified me as well as intrigued me. Terrified me due to what sort of connotations there could be when considering that Odin may gain an ego of her own, and then excitement that maybe, just maybe, Odin could become something more. Who knows, maybe I could get a real partner. Someone who knew my ins and outs, someone who knew me better than I knew myself. Someone who truly understood me and worked with me in all things. That's basically a wife, isn't it? Then there was the fear that what if whatever entity Odin becomes isn't as accommodating and loyal as Odin is, what if she becomes something that is no longer bound to me? I was honest enough to admit that I was very reliant on Odin and her abilities. If such a thing happened, there would be problems, big problems. Not to mention my emotional attachment to Odin. It may be stupid, but I was emotionally attached to my skill. Who's gonna blame me? I'm a big bad demon lord. I can feel however I want to. She was there from the start, as the mere extra skill, sage. She was there at my literal lowest point as a demon. She was my constant companion. Any normal person would become attached, even if they were getting attached to an emotionless thingy. But I knew those were just my inner doubts speaking. I find it best when I have these sorts of doubtful thoughts to just process them and debunk them rather than let them fester. I knew I liked to maintain control and that I hoarded power, and I didn't want that kind of thing to get to my head. I had a lot of knowledge from my previous life. I knew it was a bad idea to let those kinds of things fester and corrupt your mind. Honestly, if I'd dwelled on it too much, I might end up becoming a paranoid freak. After all Odin has done for me, I'd be a damn bastard to doubt her now. She was loyal to me, the least I could do is trust in her at this point. It may be a risk, but sometimes a man just needs to say fuck it, we ball. Hey, in the end, I guess I still retain some of my humanity, even after everything I've done. Odin will never ever betray the master. She said softly. I know, but it is normal to have thoughts like these, you know. But I don't doubt you. I want you to know that. Affirmative. Even if the world stands against the master, Odin will be by master's side. I felt Odin's sense of satisfaction and affection. I think my heart just skipped a beat. I guess Yinders are my type. Odin must have acquired my amazing flirting abilities from my memories. Man, I really am too good. Apostrophe. Deny it all you want. You know it to be true. For now, I would leave it at that. I'll have to think more about what's going on with Odin later. I stored the book in my infinity space and looked back up to Venom. Not even a moment passed since I looked back down at my book thanks to thought acceleration. Now I was interested in something about you. That was the entire reason I had Diablo send you to me. Venom stood up straighter, in an almost military stance, as he awaited my question. Are you a reincarnated soul? Venom's eyes widened. Why yes, sir. I nodded. That's what I thought. There is no other way a greater demon would have a unique skill. Their souls are too weak, and their egos aren't developed enough. Why you know about my unique skill? Of course I do. It seems fairly useful and can get you far as long as you train well. Venom nodded. That is what Lord Diablo said as well. Take his word for it. He is very experienced. Now, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself? There aren't many chances for me to talk to another reincarnated demon. Venom nodded. I do not recall much of my memories. I know I was raised in an orphanage and died before turning 16. Other than that, I just recall vague things about my life. I don't even remember how I ended up here. Well, that's unfortunate. That was all I was curious about. You are dismissed. Venom bowed and then left. He seems like an alright person. All of a sudden, I felt a thought communication coming from Arcuaid. Sup Arcuaid, what's up? My lord, I have captured an intruder that you may be interested in. He did not go through the proper procedures to enter your territory and made his intentions clear once I confronted him. Arcuaid said smugly. Oh? Who is it? He is known as Vega of Power, one of the three heads of Cerberus, the secret society from the Eastern Empire. Ah, Yuki's goons then. I remember learning a bit about Vega. Indeed. Alright, I'll be there shortly. Give me a brief summary of why you think he was in my territory. It is my guess that he was there to defeat and kill you, my lord, no matter how foolish such an attempt would be. He was likely sent by his coworkers to take care of you due to his abnormal abilities and high combat potential. Perhaps to get revenge for Yuki Kagorazaka. Said Arcuaid. That seems extra stupid, even if you think about how emotional they might be right now. Alright, I'll be there in a few moments. I shall eagerly await your arrival, my lord. Before leaving, I sent a thought communication to Rimuru. I had just dumped Velzard on him. The least I could do was say goodbye. Hey Rimuru, I'm going to head back. Something came up. Did something happen? Asked Rimuru. Sorta, but it's already been handled. Got it, see ya, Felix. See ya. With that, I snapped my fingers, bending space, and appeared sat on my throne in my office. I made my way down to the dungeons where we kept our prisoners, not that we had many of them in the first place. Any spies and such were interrogated by Lalatina and her subordinates and then used to send a message. Keeping live prisoners was costly after all. You would need to feed them, make sure they drank water and didn't kill themselves, and all that stuff. Plus, there was even the very unlikely chance they escaped, and that would only make a bigger mess. It didn't take me long to arrive in the dungeons. I walked past all the empty prison cells and the torture rooms and made my way to where I sensed Arcuaid. I turned the corner, and there she was, my beautiful white-haired demoness. My lord. She said with a bright and proud smile. Ignoring the torso on the other side of the magisteel bars, I returned the smile. Arcuaid, good work on catching this guy. It was no problem, my lord. Lalitina had informed me about him. I merely had to have Moss locate him and then take care of him myself," said Arcuaid. I nodded and looked towards Viga. For some reason he had an excited look on his face. Notice. The unique skill, Scavenger, has been analyzed. The unique skill, Scavenger, has been absorbed into the ultimate skill, Beelzebub, Lord of Gluttony. Oh? Well, damn. I thought as I looked over the details of the skill. The unique skill, Scavenger, was incredibly busted. If Viga had the right resources, he could climb to the peak of this world. Scavenger allowed Viga to consume anything and gain their properties as well as a portion of their power. It could even be used to consume weapons. It was similar to Gluttony, if in a slightly different shade. Beelzebub's sub-skills had been upgraded a bit. Predation was strengthened to consume and usurp even more of a target's energy and add it to my own if I choose to fully consume a target. As it was, Predation only allowed me to gain a portion of the energy of any target I consumed. Now, while it still only allowed me to take in a portion of the power, it was a far greater portion. However, the main thing that I was focused on was how I could feel that Beelzebub had gained a brand new sub-skill. Mass reproduction. Mass reproduction allowed me to create powerful biological duplicates of myself. Of course, this needed materials to use, and the quality of the duplicate depended on that, but I had tons of materials to use, and even my flesh could be used. With this I could quite literally create as many vessels for various spiritual life forms as I want. The ability to give a body to any spiritual life form that is easily equal to the god grade can only be helpful. I don't need it now. Arcuaid's body is slowly being upgraded by very careful use of Stardust with Odin's help as well as Arcuaid's own training. Then Megaman and Lalitina's bodies are naturally evolving and will soon be equivalent to god grade, but still perhaps mass reproduction will come in handy at some point. Good work, Odin. Appreciation. Hey, Odin has gotten better at accepting my compliments. Now it's about time to deal with this uppity prisoner. I walked closer to the magisteel bars and looked down at Viga as he was chained to the floor. Arcuaid stood to the side, content to watch with a gentle smile. Arcuaid had cut off all of his limbs, but I'm sure she had her reasons. Now, why did you come to my territory unannounced and without going through the proper procedure? Viga began laughing. You really are strong, aren't you? You have to be to have tamed that demoness. I raised a brow but nodded. I do consider myself as powerful, yes. Now enough with dodging my question. I began releasing waves of my demon lord's haki, focused solely on Viga. Now answer my question. I'd normally leave these kinds of things like interrogation to Lalitina, but I was personally interested in Viga's reasons, and it was quicker to find out this way. Viga wasn't able to use his own aura to attempt to resist my demon lord's haki due to the various enchantments and such that restricted Viga's use of his own internal energy. Arcuaid didn't cripple his magic circuits like I did to Laplace, but what she did was just short of that. Viga coughed out blood and fell forward. He had nothing to catch himself with, so he just face-planted, causing a faint thud. I'll talk, he said, turning his head and giving us a good look at how his broken nose fixed itself in a matter of seconds. I smiled and reined in my demon lord's haki. Good, make better choices from now on, and do not test my patience. I'm already fed up with dealing with Yoki's band of baboons. Viga laughed, hearing me, before rolling over and coughing out more blood. This was a rather pathetic sight. It seems even less than 1/100th of my demon lord's haki did a real number on Viga. Start with why you came to my territory. Viga nodded. Sure. But before that, would you allow me to serve you? Viga asked with a bloodthirsty smile. Arcuaid was now staring at Viga with unamused eyes. Oh? Why do you want to serve me? I asked curiously. I recall learning from Laplace that Viga was a beast, a man who saw this world as the jungle and enjoyed bullying the weak. I felt like I knew why exactly Viga wanted to serve me. Laplace also said that Viga was only loyal to the most powerful. The moment someone stronger showed up, he would betray you. He isn't someone I would want as a subordinate. It's not like I'm in desperate need for subordinates either. You're strong. You took down Yoki. He was the biggest predator in this jungle, and you still took him down. That deserves respect and reverence. My, do you mind if I step in, my lord? Asked Arcuaid. Go right ahead. Arcuaid gave me a bow. Thank you, my lord. She then turned to look at Viga with a chilling smile. I recall you claiming that you would devour my lord. That does not match what you are currently saying, said Arcuaid. Hey, well, I wanted to see if he was really as strong as he seemed. If he was the new king of the jungle. If he was, I'd beg to serve under him. If he wasn't, I'd devour him and take his power for my own, said Viga. Take my power for his own, huh? If he could consume me, that plan of his would probably work. The thing is, He would never be capable of consuming me, not as I am now. So you wish to test him then? Determine if he was worthy of your service? Questioned Arcuaid. Vega nodded. Exactly. Arcuaid took a deep breath and nodded before stepping aside. I could tell she was not satisfied with Vega's answer, but knew that it was a bad idea to kill him before we got more information out of him. Arcuaid had excellent self-control. Now that we know why you are here, why don't you tell me why exactly I should accept your service? I gestured to Arcuaid. As you can tell, I am not lacking when it comes to capable and effective subordinates. Hearing me, Arcuaid smiled smugly. Vega looked to Arcuaid and let out a vulgar laugh. Gahaha, yeah. That beautiful lady of yours completely defeated me, leaving me no avenue of attack. Even my regeneration was not very effective against her. I didn't think a demon lord would have a subordinate as strong as her. In fact, at first, I thought she was a demon lord. Well, Arcuaid did meet the strength criteria to be a member of the 9 sovereigns, though she would be at the bottom strength-wise if you ignored Ramaris and perhaps Dino, since I'm not sure how strong he is when he is sealed. But I do know that Dino has an ultimate skill, so he's probably pretty strong. In exchange for serving under you, I can give you information," said Vega. I looked at him curiously. "Oh? What information?" I purposefully did not agree to his terms. Vega smirked. "I am Vega of Power, of the organization Cerberus. Cagley has assumed a leadership role and, with the help of Grand Bloroso, plans to attack Ruberius." "Oh? Why is that?" I was originally not going to go out of my way to eliminate Cagley as long as she didn't fuck around. She is quite pitiful, after all. But if she is getting involved in things she shouldn't be, then she only has herself to blame. Cagley wants revenge, Grand Bl also wants revenge, and both want to claim the hero that Demon Lord Valentine has sealed. Now, I was actually interested. "What did you say?" I asked, my tone dangerous. Vega gulped. Grand Bloroso was aware of the masked hero Granoa being kept with Demon Lord Valentine. Ecchi also had a suspicion that Demon Lord Valentine was the god Luminous. With the help of one of our contacts, the two were able to arrange a meeting and began cooperating for the purpose of gaining control over the masked hero. "What makes them think they can control Granoa?" I asked. "If Demon Lord Valentine can control Granoa, they believe they can as well," Vega answered. "Ah, so they are working off false information once again, huh? I would have thought Granbl would have learned his lesson. I suppose he is getting desperate. Luminous never controlled Granoa, but I guess that is a valid line of thought. Demon lords and heroes are both antithesis of each other. For them to cooperate is almost unthinkable. In that case, it isn't that unbelievable that Luminous found a way to control Granoa. So Granbl wants revenge for what? For Mariabelle? Mariabelle's death did kind of ruin his entire plan for world domination, so that makes sense. I'm guessing that Cagley wants revenge on me? For killing Footman, Clayman, and now Ecchi?" Vega let out a guttural laugh. "Yes, her hatred for you rivals, if not surpasses her hatred of Demon Lord Leon now. She wants to see you dead and will stop at nothing to accomplish that goal." "I see. Do you know their exact plan to extract Granoa?" "Partially. Cagley explained the general plan to us, but she is likely keeping some things to herself." I nodded. "Share what you know then." "Cagley, along with Granbl, have made a plan to steal the hero from under Demon Lord Valentine's nose." Vega began. "The plan is for Granbl to serve as a distraction. He will attack the main cathedral and draw most of Ruberius' forces, as well as Demon Lord Valentine. Misha of Love will help during this by having her tamed monsters rampage around, distracting the holy knights of Ruberius. During this, Cagley and Tyr would use one of Granbl's secret entrances into Night Garden and discreetly make their way through Demon Lord Valentine's palace, where they will quickly grab the seal the hero is in and then leave." Vega continued. I looked at Vega, unimpressed. "How do they plan to get past the defenses to get into Luminous's palace?" "Luminous? I see, that must be Demon Lord Valentine's name, then. As for your question, Cagley believes herself to be very experienced at dismantling curses and traps, and so she plans to dismantle them as they move along." I rolled my eyes. That's just pure arrogance. Cagley isn't getting through anything. Those defenses of Luminous were top-notch. It is practically impossible for someone not on the ultimate awakened level to get through them, and Cagley is most certainly not at that level. Vega shrugged. "That's what I know, boss. As I said, Cagley kept some things to herself." I nodded. "I see. Is there anything else you want to share?" Vega shook his head. "That's all I know about the attack, boss." I nodded. I wasn't worried about him lying. Thanks to the soul corridor that now existed between Milim and me, Odin was able to analyze and copy Milim's ear, a skill that enhanced all of my hearing capabilities many-fold. Even discreet conversations would be picked up, such as those that take place through thought communication. Only conversations done through a soul connection or soul corridor are truly private with me around now. On top of that, it allows me to pick up if something is true or false. The ruler's authority also has this feature. How will Cagley take your disappearance? I am sure it did take you quite some time to travel to my territory. Vega laughed when he heard me. We don't keep in contact much. She only gives us orders, and we follow them. She likely hasn't checked in with me at all since I left, and likely won't until she finishes fine-tuning her plan. I nodded. Alright, tell me about where the secret base Cagley is staying is. There are multiple bases that exist. I am only aware of two. The base that I had control over, and then the mutual base, also the headquarters of Cerberus where we met up for meetings and the like. So you all had separate bases, basically? Vega nodded. Correct. Cagley, Damrata, Tyr, and everyone else all stayed in their own separate bases for safety purposes. I nodded. I see. That's unfortunate. If I knew where they all were, I could wipe them out and take care of this problem. I could probably send Vega back and have a way for him to inform me when they all meet up again so I can just pop in and delete them all, but Granville may not be part of that meeting. Attacking without him there might only make him hide like a cockroach and pop out when I am not expecting him. Not to mention, this attack is an opportunity. When you are aware of a trap, you can maneuver around it to make it beneficial to you. Rimuru already had some plans in order to take advantage of the attack to gain some more political power in the West. Luminous wanted to deal with those conspiring against her personally, and the attack could perhaps be an opportunity for growth for my own subordinates that participated. Not to mention Vega seems like a dumbass, he probably left a trail Cagley could find to understand what happened. And if I sent him back there, who's to say that Cagley won't win him over again? The dude was a traitor through and through. And I would have just sent back someone who could become troublesome in the future for no reason. Tell me where the bases you know of are. Once Vega told me of their location, I snapped my fingers, unlocking the prison cell that Vega was in. I walked in and placed my hand on his shoulder. Here's the thing, I don't think I want you as a subordinate. Always make a contract when you are making deals with an unknown, especially with a demon like me. Toodles. Vega's eyes widened, his pupil shrinking as he tried to attack with a bite. But in the end, he didn't even get the chance to move. Beelzebub. Before he could do anything, he was consumed by a swirl of darkness. I didn't think Vega would make for a good subordinate for me. He was powerful and had potential, but he was not loyal, and I don't care nearly enough to have him bound by a locking curse or anything like that. Knowing Cagley, she might even be able to break any curse I place on him. Curses were her whole thing, after all. I didn't think much of Cagley, but I didn't want to be an idiot and underestimate her when I really didn't have an idea of what her capabilities might be. I know how strong she was in the past, and Laplace said she wasn't all that strong in the present, but for all I know she has her own cards she kept close to her chest. Perhaps I was being too paranoid, but it's fine. It's not like I ever agreed to his deal in the first place. He just assumed I did. In the end, Vega was just not worth the effort. Arcuaid walked up and stood beside me. What will we do now, my lord? I'll probably meet up with Rimuru and Luminous and tell them about the planned attack. When a surprise attack is no longer a surprise attack, the attackers are put in a rather disadvantageous position. Arcuaid nodded and looked down to where Vega used to be. The man was a brute, but he did have some interesting abilities. His regeneration factor was interesting. Oh? For something to interest you it must be special. What was so special about Vega's regenerative abilities? He didn't have self-regeneration, ultra-speed regeneration, or infinite regeneration, so it must have something to do with his body. What can you tell me about his body, Odin? It is highly likely that the individual Vega was modified in some way. Each of his living cells can be considered a type of bacteria capable of being manipulated at will, giving Vega a viscous physiology similar to that of a slime. His body has powerful regenerative abilities superior to even ultra-speed regeneration in some ways. If a significant enough mass of bacteria is separated from the main body, it will start growing into an entirely new body similar to the physicality possessed by creatures like starfish. So he is basically an infinite vessel generator. Correct. That aligns with what Laplace had said, though Laplace also said his cells held a corruptive influence, corrupting anyone who attempted to use one of his bodies as a vessel. I had cut off his arm, which he quickly regenerated, which was not odd as I hadn't used any preventive measures to halt regeneration. What I found odd was that the arm I cut off had grown an entire body of its own. I nodded. I see, thanks, Arcuaid. I'll be going to inform Luminous and Rimuru of the change in situation. As you will, my lord. I snapped my fingers, teleporting to my room to grab a few things before I left. Notice. The unique skill, Creator has evolved into the ultimate skill, Brahma, Lord of Creation. I felt a change take place in my very soul. PFFFT, ha 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 ha. This is such a broken skill. Good job, Odin, this is honestly amazing. Though I thought you said that it would take 3 months to evolve Creator? Odin had said that it may take up to 3 months. Semantics. However, data from the unique skill, Scavenger, has been incorporated into the ultimate skill, Beelzebub, Lord of Gluttony. Thanks to this, the conversion of Yoki Kagorazaka's soul had become much more efficient. Odin was able to make use of 100% of Yoki Kagorazaka's Saint Soul to evolve Creator into an ultimate skill, as well as incorporate data from other skills. Data from other skills, huh? Yeah, I can see that. With Brahma, I feel like a whole new world has opened up to me. A world of creation. Brahma was beyond broken. I was totally on a power high right now. I held my palm upwards, and crimson red flames flickered above my palm. I had created fire, and not just that, this was a fire at the ultimate level. Nothing would be able to block or get past this fire unless that was also on the ultimate level. Even magic would find itself incinerated by this fire if the laws behind the magic weren't well developed enough. I had created such powerful flames with minimal effort, I just willed it to exist, and Brahma did the rest of the work. Skills were basically keybinds that correlated to certain laws. If it weren't for law domination, this fire would have already burned my clothes off and burned chunks of my room away, and it wasn't even directly touching anything. I watched as it burned space itself before I closed my palm, erasing the fire. I closed my eyes and focused on Brahma's sub-skills. The first sub-skill was skill creation. Skill creation allowed me and, by extension, Odin to create brand new skills using data that Odin has plenty of. With this, she can create completely brand new skills by using the data from multiple skills and converging it into one. Odin was already capable of this, however. This wasn't as crazy as it sounded, though. Affirmative. Odin used data from multiple skills in the creation of the ultimate skill, Brahma, Lord of Creation, including data from Odin itself to optimize the process completely. I see. The next sub-skill was skill duplication, which Odin was already capable of. It basically allows me to recreate skills that I have the data for. Next up was skill gifting, which allowed me to grant any skills to a target as long as they are compatible with the skill. I was capable of this beforehand through Beelzebub, but this allows me to grant skills to those I don't even have a soul connection with, which Beelzebub did not allow. Then there were the really interesting sub-skills. There is creation, which allows me to create practically anything as long as I have enough energy. It was basically my intrinsic skill, material creation, but on absolute steroids. I could create top-tier bodies for spiritual beings to inhabit. I could even create equipment that easily reaches God grade, and unlike those made through material creation, the equipment made through Brahma matches if not surpasses naturally made God grade equipment. If I buff the equipment with stardust, well, they will be in a whole other league. And earthly things weren't the only things I could create. I could create stars, solar systems, even galaxies and universes. Though I felt that creating any sort of celestial phenomena would be rather difficult due to the sheer energy cost, before I couldn't create an entirely separate dimension with its own unique laws of nature, I had to have those dimensions connected to another primary dimension. But now I could theoretically create an entirely new dimension, one where I govern over and decide the laws of nature. Of course, it was harder to do that in practice. I could feel that I was missing a part of the equation when it came to creating a new universe, dimension from scratch. I had the general picture as to how it could be done, but I knew I was missing something key. So that would be out of my limits for some time. Souls weren't off limits either. I could theoretically recreate and potentially create souls as I pleased, though creating souls from scratch would have to wait until Odin acquires more data and understanding over the concept. For all I know, maybe I can't really create souls. Brahma didn't give me a guide about its limits and whatnot. That was for me to discover. Then there was skill retrieval. This allowed me to use any of the skills Odin already had complete data on through Brahma itself. I could use any unique skill, extra skill, or common skill through this without having to recreate the skill itself. Though in theory I could already do this, as the way skill retrieval works is that it recreates a skill's effect by manipulating the laws of the world manually. This basically just optimizes that process. And since all these lesser skills were being used through Brahma, an ultimate skill, they were also buffed to the ultimate level by default without having to buff anything on my part. And that wasn't all. I could even use all the ultimate skills Odin has analyzed through this sub-skill without recreating them, therefore not straining my soul. However, for some reason, this sub-skill only allowed me to make use of skills that already existed or had been created. Affirmative. It was not possible to allow the master to mix and match data to make use of conflicting ultimate skills at this point. Still, you've done great work. Appreciation. I could also only wield the ultimate skills at 70% of their full power. There had to be some catch after all, Even if this was manually creating the effects of an ultimate skill, I could only do that to a certain extent. But this was still huge. I'll have much more adaptability in my fights with this. I was already getting excited to surprise Milim with this in our next spar. My combat potential had quite literally just skyrocketed. My current self would destroy my 5 minutes ago self. That goes to show how big a single upgrade can be. This was way too much fucking power. I took a deep breath. I was already able to bend over the laws of the world. This is no different. Notice. The sub-skill infinity of the ultimate skill, our Ouroboros, Lord of Infinity, has been modified. I could already feel the change. Brahma, Lord of Creation, makes it far easier for Odin to modify skills now. It basically streamlines the process and has also basically allowed Odin to reach enlightenment. Before, Infinity wasn't really an absolute defense, but that isn't too big of a deal. I had more defenses layered underneath it, so I don't need to worry if Infinity is ever broken through, which isn't all that hard to do for the top levels of this world. But it seems Odin took that as a challenge. Now, Spiritrons aren't even capable of bypassing Infinity. Those attacks will now be subject to Infinity's spatial effects. I'm seriously loving all these new upgrades. Now, enough hyping myself up. It's best if Rimuru and Luminous are informed of the situation as soon as possible. Chapter 133, Spiritual Surgery. Now, enough hyping myself up. It would be best if Rimuru and Luminous were informed of the situation as soon as possible. Well. Before that. Lalatina, could you come to my room? Ah. Yes, Master. Lalatina said with a giddy giggle. I'm sure she has misunderstood the situation, but whatever. A moment later, I heard a knock on my door. Come in, Lalatina. The door opened, and in came my purple-haired demon. Master. Did you wish for me to service you? I shook my head. Not now. I actually need you to do something for me. Seeing that I was being serious, Lalatina straightened up and looked at me seriously. At your service, Master. That's why I like Lalatina. She is a degenerate, but she doesn't let that get in the way of her duties. I need you to frame a scene for me. I held my palm out towards the ground and created a perfect duplicate of Viga's body using Brahma. Even his odd cells were replicated in the body. It was practically identical to Viga's original body, which I consumed with Beelzebub. I personally didn't need his weird form of regeneration. The only possible bonus it could grant me was the ability to easily create vessels for spiritual life forms, but I have that covered with mass reproduction and Brahma. I looked down at the clothed body of Viga with amusement. I need you to set up a situation in the Western nations that makes it look like Viga died in an attack of some sort. Cagley would be very, very suspicious if Viga just dropped dead out of nowhere, if she isn't already. In fact, I'd be disappointed in her if she wasn't suspicious. Viga just disappears, and if she doesn't consider the possibility of him betraying her, then she really isn't as smart as she thinks she is. But, I might as well make it look like one of Viga's enemies offed him. It's better than him vanishing at the very least, and would point less fingers at me. Don't do a monster attack, by the way. I already left traces of a monster attack when I dealt with Yoki, even if the plan did change. If possible, I don't want Cagley to be certain of my involvement. Keeping the two events as separate as possible is ideal. Lalatina nodded. Got it, Master. I nodded. Good, I'll leave the details to you. Yes. I won't fail you. I smiled. I know you won't. Once you're done with that, I want you to send some of your subordinates out to check some bases for me and make sure it is very discreet, as no one dies, and no one notices them. I didn't expect Lalatina to find much since Cagley I was smart and kept separate bases, but I still didn't want to miss something due to negligence. Lalatina already had people looking for Granble's whereabouts, though she wasn't having much luck with that. If there is one thing Granble is good at, it's hiding. Lalatina nodded. And with that Lalatina stored the body in her spatial storage and teleported away. Notice. It is now possible to theoretically recreate a soul if there is enough information and data available. Recreate a soul? That would basically be reviving someone from the dead, even if they have completely passed on and possibly reincarnated, right? Correct. Still, in my belief, that would still be a different person. Even if they have the same exact soul, it wouldn't really be the same exact soul that went through all the experiences of living. Just a copy of it. But I suppose that is enough for most people. Notice. Odin has a suggestion. Oh? Let me hear it. Using Brahma, Lord of Creation, it is theoretically possible to recreate the memories of the Star King Veldanova. I paused for a moment to take that in. Are you saying? Affirmative. By recreating the memories of the Star King Veldanova, the Master will gain far more information about the multiverse and how it functions. Manipulating the laws of reality will be child's play, and Odin will also acquire data that can be used to help keep the Master safe. If Odin could recreate Veldenava's memories, then that would be insane. Veldenava originally possessed all 14 skills of the Angelic series skills. Theoretically, his memories alone would be enough to recreate those, as well as all the other skills he had a direct hand in creating. Not to mention, he quite literally coded reality. Who knows what else I could learn and acquire from his memories. Veldenava was literally God, with a capital G. He is the god of this multiverse, the creator of all life. His memories would make me basically unbeatable if Odin could replicate his powers through his memories, which I don't doubt Odin could accomplish. He taught the first true hero, Veldenava must have some very powerful sword arts, various powerful magics, and everything else in between. I was getting excited just thinking about it. There was just one issue. Odin, I'm not confident in maintaining my ego against the memories of a billions of years old true dragon. I know I'm full of myself, but I'm not that full of myself. I refuse to allow my ego to be overtaken by Veldenava's own. Affirmative. The Master's desire is already known. Odin can recreate the memories of the Star King Veldenava, and have them separated from the Master's own. All emotions will be disconnected from the Star King Veldenava's memories. So, basically like reading a book or watching a movie? It'll basically be a database I can draw on? Affirmative. Well then fuck it, go for it. Notice. Using data gathered from the magicules released from the Chaos Dragon, the Star King Factor, Uriel, Lord of Vows, Raphael, Lord of Wisdom, Metatron, Lord of Purity, and Gabriel, Lord of Patience. Approximately 1,031,124 years remaining. Holy crap, that's a long time, like an uncountable number of years from my perspective. I'm not even a single century old. Hell, in this world, I am not even 5 years old. Though thinking about it, that isn't that long. 1 million years to recreate billions of years worth of memories is pretty damn quick. Still an absurd amount of time for me, though. I see. Basically, anything connected to Veldenava will accelerate the process, right? Affirmative. Odin's own abilities will also affect the speed of recreation. Got it. Notice. Odin has also finished analyzing the Star King Dragon Factor, the Frost Dragon Factor, and the Storm Dragon Factor. It is now possible to incorporate these into the Master using Brahma, Lord of Creation. So, I have 3 true dragon factors to incorporate, right? I wonder what kind of effects that will have on me. Will there be any dangers doing this? Negative. However, the Master will fall unconscious for a short period of time as the factors are incorporated into the Master. I see. Then, it is best to wait until I finish with this meeting with Rimuru and Luminous then. Man, Brahma is seriously giving me access to a massive power boost. I'm excited to see where I end up at the end of all this power leveling, but that has to wait for later. I shook my head. I have other things to focus on other than how overpowered I am. I contacted Luminous through the Demon Lord's ring. Felix? Did something happen? Luminous asked calmly, though I could feel an undercurrent of worry behind it. Sort of, I'll explain it in person. I just wanted to let you know I'll be dropping by with Rimuru soon. Very well, I will be waiting. Now I must go get Chang. I will see you soon. And with that, Luminous cut the conversation. Huh, that was weird. Luminous Valentine, after ending the conversation with Felix, she immediately jumped off of her bed, which she was lounging on, and made her way to her closet. She looked through the various assortment of clothing she had available. She smirked and immediately picked an outfit from the bunch, an outfit Hinata had complimented. It was sure to immediately get Felix's attention. And then, from there, she could begin her plan to seduce him. This was, of course, a method to acquire Hinata's affections. She did not care for Felix after all, at least not in the same way she cared for Hinata and Chloe. She ignored the way her thighs rubbed together when she thought back to that image of Felix Lalitina had given her. I snapped my fingers and teleported to Tempest. I immediately extended my wings, took to the skies, and flew towards where I sensed Rimuru. He was in his office. I wasn't flying fast enough to be unnoticeable, so I saw many citizens of Tempest pointing at me, which was normal. You weren't usually allowed to fly in Tempest, after all. I transformed my physical body into literal space, making myself intangible and directly phased through the window. Cameo for the win. Gah. Felix. Rimuru jumped in his chair. He was currently in his slime for seemingly doing paperwork. Somehow. Rimuru. Change of plans, we need to go discuss something with Luminous now. I acquired some more information that will be helpful with the whole Krinoa situation. Rimuru immediately nodded and quickly sent out a brief thought communication notifying his people that he was leaving. Once that was done, I snapped my fingers, teleporting the 2 of us to the lounge that we had used the previous time we were in Luminous Palace. Luminous was already sitting down waiting for us, snacks and tea were already available on the table. Sup Luminous? I greeted. Luminous rolled her eyes. Hello, Felix. She then looked to Rimuru. Greetings, Rimuru. Ah, hey, Luminous. I gave Luminous a good look. She was not wearing her standard gothic dress. Instead, she was wearing a beautiful black side-slit dress that showed off plenty of her legs. Lookin' good, Luminous. I complimented with a wink, which was seemingly enough to make her blush. Oh, of course I look good. Luminous declared haughtily. It's adorable how any genuine compliment gets to you. I laughed out. Luminous gritted her teeth and turned to the side. Rimuru and I took our seats. We were both sitting across from each other with Luminous at the head of the table. She was the host, after all. Luminous finally turned to look at us as she took a sip of her tea. Humphrey. Luminous then set her teacup down. Now, what was so urgent that you needed the meeting immediately? I took a sip of the tea. To be honest, it isn't super urgent. I'm pretty sure we still have time. But it's best to communicate early. Luminous nodded. A wise choice. Now, Vega, one of the heads of Cerberus and one of Ecchi's subordinates, had came to my territory. Oh? Luminous asked, a dangerous hint to her tone. Don't worry, Archie had managed to take care of him. The information I got from him is why we're here in the first place. Luminous nodded. I see, very well then. Vega himself was pretty interesting, but we aren't here to talk about that. Basically, Vega came to me with information in exchange for serving me. It seems Cagley had involved him a bit in her upcoming plans. Oh? So she has not learned her lesson and is still eager to rock the boat? Luminous said with an amused smile. I shrugged my shoulders. It seems so. Apparently, she hates me. I wonder why. Rimuru said with a roll of his eyes. Hey, it's her own fault. She shouldn't be sending so many of her so-called family to attack me and kill the people close to me if she really valued them. Honestly, with their occupation, she should have been well aware of the risks. I guess she just thought the clowns to be invincible. I could understand why Cagley was upset, but you'd think she would have learned her lesson after losing not one but two of her clowns. At this point, any losses were on them. Luminous nodded. Indeed, she should suffer the consequences of her own actions. I nodded. See? She gets it. For some reason, Luminous gave me a satisfied smile after hearing me. Oh well, whatever. Anyways, continuing on, Cagley got in contact with Granville. Rimuru sighed. I can already see where this is going. They both made an alliance of sorts, seemingly to get revenge, but they also have a wider goal. Oh? And what is this wider goal? Questioned Luminous. Cronoa. They want Cronoa. The moment the words left my mouth, Luminous's aura began raging around us. What? Luminous asked in a completely calm tone of voice. Calm down, they are just planning on it. It's not like they have her yet. I looked to Rimuru, who seemed upset, but he kept in control. Luminous took a deep breath and nodded. I apologize. That was unbecoming of me. Cronoa is just a very good friend of mine. It's fine, I get it. I gestured to the pastries laid across the table. Eat some sweets. I'm sure that will help you relax. Luminous's eye twitched, but she took a cookie nonetheless. A small smile bloomed on Luminous' face as she ate the cookie. See, Gunter makes some good stuff. Not as good as Raiden's, though. And not as good as Shuna's either. Rimuru interrupted. Luminous ignored our words and continued to munch on the cookies for a moment. Her cheeks even puffed out, sorta like a squirrel. Oh, how cute. I teased. My words seemingly snapped Luminous back from the land of sweets as she glared at me. Continue, Felix. Luminous intoned. Haha, I'll never forget that image. I said as I raised my hand, projecting the image of Luminous. Luminous's mouth twitched. Get rid of that. Nua. Delete it now. Nah, I think I'm good. Before Luminous could jump across the table and strangle me, Rimuru interrupted. I don't mean to interrupt your flirting, but don't we have something important going on here? I am not flirting with that buffoon. Luminous declared. And I'm not a slime. Rimuru said with a roll of his eyes. Luminous huffed. I will not get into a pointless argument with you two. Please continue, Felix. I nodded with a smirk. Vega said that the plan was for Granville to act as a distraction. He would attack the main cathedral with the help of Misha of Love, one of the higher-ups of Cerberus. Originally, he would join her as a distraction. Misha has an army of tamed monsters, so those will be used to distract the Holy Knights and Crusaders, while Granville will hold you off, Luminous. He probably expects you to immediately go for him out of anger for his betrayal. Luminous nodded. That would be likely. Though this Misha will have a hard time, it seems Cagley will not stop underestimating my forces. Ser is an incomplete saint, and while he has his superiors, he can still deal with mere monsters. I'll doubt one of Cagli's subordinates and some monsters will be enough to defeat Sarah alone, let alone the rest of the 10 great saints. Sarah? Is that the guy that interrupted us last time? I recall that he was an incomplete saint, something very impressive. For Veldin of his so-called favorite race, humans really got the short end of the stick. You are either the 1%, or you are fodder. There is no in-between. Then among the 1% is the 0.1% of humanity, those that have met the requirements to gain a hero's egg and hatch it. Then among that 0.1% of humanity is the 0.0001% of humanity, those who have met the requirements, and have also gained the interest and blessing of an elemental of light or darkness. It's actually unfair how hard it is to become a hero's egg, let alone a true hero. Us non-humans just have to get a demon lord seed and then get some souls. Just a bit of murder, and we can become as strong as the top of humanity. Even among those that have actually become true heroes, only fucking Ryudranamal Noska has managed to reach a level of strength that allows him to challenge the true dragons, and he was a high human, which I'm sure boosted his power a fair bit when compared to the humans of nowadays. Hell, he was even personally taught by Veldinova. God himself had to come down to earth and teach a human to have them reach their true potential. The non-humans have a lot more people at that level. Humans are really taking an L when it comes to what the better race is. Becoming a Magan is probably the best route for humans. Who cares if the humans call it the wrong way of ascending? It may still be difficult as hell, but it won't be as hard as ascending the proper way for humans. At least it isn't practically impossible to not be fodder that way. From what I know, Eldorado, Leon's kingdom is filled to the brim with Magan and demonoids, some of which are pretty strong according to Guy, around the demon lord seed level. Then there is that Razan guy I saw at the Tempest Founding Festival. He was firmly a disaster class threat with multiple unique skills. Luminous scowled briefly but nodded at my earlier question. Indeed, he is the one. He was scolded for his interruption. Oh? You two were interrupted, huh? Just what was interrupted? Asked Rimuru, a teasing hint to his tone. Luminous gained an atomic blush on her face. Nothing like that, you dolt. Ah, to think you would deny the passionate love we made that day, Luminous. I placed a hand on where my heart should be. You wound me. Luminous's gaze snapped to me, her blush deepening from my words. Felix. Both Rimuru and I burst out in laughter at the look on her face. Luminous really is weak to teasing. Must bully more. But I can do that later, when important things aren't being discussed. Luminous scowled at us. If you are quite done, I would like for Felix to continue with what he was saying. I laughed. Yeah, while Grandl is serving as a distraction, Cagle and Tyr will sneak by using one of the secret entrances Grandl created, an entrance that leads into Night Garden and close to your palace. Luminous's gaze hardened. I see. Apparently Cagle thinks she can dismantle your wards and escape with Cronoa. Not sure why she thinks that, but she seems to think herself better than she truly is. Perhaps the constant loss of her close ones has gotten to her, and so she isn't thinking things through. Even if she did manage to get through your wards, I don't see her being capable of beating either Gunter or Louis, let alone both at once. Though she may have some utterly bullshit trump card, it wouldn't do to underestimate her like she is us. Luminous scoffed. Foolish. I have spent centuries perfecting the defenses of my palace, but I suppose being careful is the best choice at this point. Luminous then glared in my direction. Only a few are capable of tearing straight through my wards. And Cagle is not one of those few. I turned my head to the side and began whistling. Rimuru sighed. That is possible. I can't imagine what it feels like to lose your close ones, one after the other. Don't be mistaken, she needs to be taken care of, but I can at least pity her and her situation. Rimuru then looked at me with an odd look on his face. Why are you whistling Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars? I stopped whistling and looked at Rimuru. Why not? Anyways, Cagle dug her grave. Now she has to lay in it. So their overall plan is for Grandl to serve as a distraction, which Cagle will take advantage of to steal Cronoa away. Asked Luminous. I nodded. That sounds about right. Cagle probably wants to find a way to use Cronoa against us for revenge, and Grandl may have similar reasoning. Either that, or he'll use Cronoa to conquer the West or something. I see. However, that plan may have changed. I assume that Vega will not be returning to Cagle? I shook my head. No, he won't. Perhaps I could have accepted his offer, and had him go play double agent, but what's done is done. There is a slight issue, however, then. Said Luminous. If Vega does not return to Cagle, then she may be suspicious as to where he is. She may consider the possibility that he has betrayed her and alter her plan accordingly. I nodded. Yeah, I already thought of that. My measures may not be enough to completely put Cagle's suspicions to rest, but they will at least work as a stopgap. Oh? And what did you do? Asked Luminous. I killed Vega and what? I thought you took him as a subordinate? Interrupted Rimuru. I shook my head. Nah, I never said yes to his deal after all. It's his own fault for trying to make a deal with a demon without a contract, to be honest. I hadn't even agreed to anything. Plus, he seems like a crappy subordinate. He would easily betray me the moment someone stronger shows up. The world is vast, I'm not going to be an idiot and just discount the possibility of there being even stronger people out there. Rimuru nodded. So what? You got rid of him then? I nodded. Yup, he shouldn't be showing back up in this world ever again. I personally think you made a wise choice, Felix. Vega is a very untrustworthy person, based on what the clown told us. But that brings the question, what if he was lying? Said Luminous. No need to worry about that. I have a way to tell the truth from lies. Luminous nodded. I expected as much, but I wished for confirmation. It's fine. I responded. So after killing Vega, I asked Lalitina to frame a scene of murder somewhere in the Western nations. That should throw off Kagli a little bit at the very least. Vega and Kagli likely have some other enemies we aren't aware of, so she may see it as an assassination on Vega, but she won't know we were behind it. Luminous nodded, though I did notice her lips twitch at the mention of Lalitina. It seems their rivalry has lasted to this day. How amusing. That plan of yours is feasible. It does rely on a lot of chance, but it is our only option at this point since we are not aware of where Kagli's secret base is. Or at least I am assuming that is the case since you have not mentioned any base yet, Felix. Said Luminous. Sorta. I do know where two of their bases are. It turns out Kagli isn't a complete idiot. Each important member of Cerberus has a base allocated to them. Vega had a base of his own that he was hiding out in, and then there was the main headquarters of Cerberus, which Kagli, Tyr, and Damrata only occasionally visited. I've already told Lalitina to send someone to check those bases out very discreetly. My sensory range was rather massive, but certain barriers were specifically designed to combat sensory skills like magic sense and universal sense. I'm assuming that's what Granbl and Kagli are relying on to hide from anyone's senses. Luminous tapped her finger on the table repeatedly. I see. We could attack their headquarters, but if the information we are looking for is not available, then that would make Kagli even more suspicious. She would likely immediately connect the dots and realize Vega had betrayed her. Her plan would change drastically from there. Your plan of having it discreetly investigated is most likely best, Felix. I nodded. Yeah, it's best if we just set a trap for them. It's safer for us that way, and it's less likely for everything to go completely wrong. Everything might still go off the rails, but there is just a lower chance of it. We're probably being too cautious, but you can never be too careful in this world. There are quite a few potential locations that Kagli may have her base in. For one, there are bunkers all over the Western nations, meant to hide the various rulers, nobles, and then lastly, citizens whenever there is another Tenma war. After so many Tenma wars, all the kingdoms in the West know to expect them every 500 or so years, and so they have prepared for them as best as they can. Luminous lips twitched. Safe? I'm not sure if you are aware, but Granoa will still be in danger, Felix. I rolled my eyes. Of course, I know that. I smirked. But I now have a solution to our whole Granoa issue. Rimuru and Luminous both looked at me with interest and curiosity in their eyes. Oh? And what have you come up with? I have been attempting to gather all the items necessary to proceed with the ritual, but some of them are seemingly not where they should be. Said Luminous. It would be very helpful if you have come up with another way to unseal Granoa. It's possible, right Odin? Affirmative. It is possible to grant the master the spiritual constitution anti-skill. However, similar to with the dragon factors, the master will be forced into a sleep-like state while Odin modifies the master's spiritual body. Nothing like good old spiritual surgery, huh? I reached toward one of the cookies on the table, leaving Rimuru and Luminous in suspense. Well, you know about anti-skill, right? Well, I can replicate the spiritual constitution in myself. I can acquire anti-skill and can use it to easily dismantle the holy Arkansas, I said as I took a bite of the cookie. Both Rimuru and Luminous looked at me in shock. How? Asked Luminous. Well, I killed Yuki. Of course I didn't let his body go to waste. I was able to analyze it, and now I can replicate it with a skill of mine. I, of course, left most of the details out, like Odin and Brahma, but they didn't need to know that. Of course, the moment I gained anti-skill, I knew that I would be using it to unseal Granoa. Donata has a lot of discipline heading her way for losing to Laplace. I'm not going to be giving her extra time to prepare. The fact that she isn't even really conscious is irrelevant. And you only wish to share that now? Luminous grit out. I raised a brow at her. Now, don't get too jumpy. I only just gained the ability to recreate anti-skill right before coming here. I see. I suppose I may have overreacted. Luminous said in her typical tsundere fashion. I am simply worried about Granoa. The sooner she is unsealed and taken care of, the better. She continued. I nodded. It's fine. I can understand your perspective. Luminous gave me a small smile when she heard me. Rimuru coughed lightly, interrupting us. Now, that's great and all, but you two can flirt later, said Rimuru. I rolled my eyes at him. Yeah, whatever. I can unseal Granoa whenever, but before we do that, we should come up with some countermeasures in case neither Chloe nor Hinata are in control. You mean if that mysterious ego inside of Granoa is in control? Asked Luminous. I nodded. Very well. That is likely for the best. Granoa's aura alone would cause a massive amount of damage to Night Garden, which is damage I would like to avoid if possible, said Luminous. Yeah, and I have an idea for that exact situation. Luminous looked at me curiously. Oh? And what is this idea of yours? I stood up from my seat and walked towards Luminous. As I did so, I snapped my fingers, placing a barrier around the room to isolate the upcoming conversation. Once I was looming over her, I spoke up. Now, Luminous, I am going to be sharing one of my most valuable secrets. Do not go sharing this with anybody. I feel like I have a good measure of who you are as a person, so I can trust you enough not to go around telling others of this secret. Luminous looked up at me with a blush on her face. Why did she have a blush on her face? I seriously don't understand this woman. Luminous took a deep breath and nodded, her blush still on her face. Very well, Felix. I appreciate the trust you have placed in me. Are you gonna tell her about that? Asked Rimuru. I nodded at Rimuru. First off, let me tell you the nature of one of my ultimate skills. Before I could continue, Luminous interrupted. Oh, one of your ultimate skills? You have multiple? Luminous's expression was in between that of shock, astonishment, and pride as she looked at me, her blush seemingly deepened. I guess I really am just that hot, huh? Apostrophe. You know I'm right, Odin. I nodded with a smirk. Yup, I got multiple. What can I say? I'm just built different. I have multiple ultimate skills too, said the peanut gallery, meaning Rimuru. You too. Luminous was just flabbergasted. She has an ultimate skill and now knows just how difficult it can be for the normies to get one. She herself only recently got one after thousands of years, and then to hear two newbies to the game got multiple right off the bat. Well, safe to say I'd be flabbergasted if I was her too. Odin is broken. I doubt I would have gotten an ultimate skill without a lot more work without Odin. I was self-aware enough to acknowledge that I was just really lucky and thrived in my circumstances. Anyways, back to what I was going to tell you. I took a step back and snapped my fingers, opening portals to various different dimensions around the room, some in the wall, some in the ceiling, the floor, and some were just floating in space, but each dimension was different. Some portals lead to dry wastelands, others to worlds made of water, while the next may take you to a world of ice. Luminous examined all the portals closely before her eyes widened. I may not be a master of spatial manipulation, but from what I am sensing, beyond those portals is an entirely different space-time. Luminous said, a small amount of all eking into her voice. I nodded. Yup. I am capable of traveling to other dimensions. I don't know what to say, Felix. I hadn't expected for a skill like this to even exist. I do not think you understand the sheer implications of this skill. The insectors would destroy countless civilizations for such a skill, said Luminous as she looked up at me. Yeah, Velzard said they invade other dimensions for resources or something? Luminous nodded. Something like that. They must rely on naturally occurring spatial distortions, which happen once in a blue moon, and even then, the forces they can send are limited. You truly are extraordinary, aren't you, Felix? Thank you for sharing this secret with me. I will not inform anyone else of this. I nodded. Good. Luminous looked back at one of the portals. Have you visited these other dimensions in the past? I nodded. Yeah, I have. How intriguing. I do wonder what lies beyond them, said Luminous. I can take you to another dimension sometime, I offered. I already planned to take Rimuru, Veldora, and Milim with me at some point. I already told Milim about Planeswalker very vaguely. She knows I can travel to other worlds, but she hasn't really brought it up since then, likely respecting my wishes to not talk about it since I hadn't brought it up again. Milim was caring and understanding like that. I did send us to another dimension to deal with Gaia, but that doesn't really count as a trip to another world. I'll have to take her to an actually fun world sometime. I would enjoy that, Felix, responded Luminous. I was planning to go to another dimension after this whole mess was done. Perhaps I'll take someone with me then. That could be a good time to bring Milim along with me. I snapped my fingers and closed all the portals. In the worst case that I am unable to replicate anti-skill, which is very very doubtful, we can always send the Holy Ark into another uninhabited dimension. That way, neither Grandel nor Cagley will be able to get to her. I would rather have Cronoa as close to me as possible. But I see the wisdom in your words, said Luminous. That's just the worst case scenario, and I doubt it will be necessary. In the best case, we can still send the Holy Ark to another empty dimension, and then I can unseal her, and we can go from there. We won't have to worry about any interruptions like Gaia or something like that. I was confident in Odin's success. She hasn't failed me before. Luminous nodded. Very well, I will trust your words. So is that all you wanted to share, Felix? I do have some work left to do, and I assume that recreating anti-skill will take some time, asked Rimuru. I looked at him and nodded. Yeah, it should take some time, but not too long. Rimuru nodded. Then I will be heading back. I'm still taking care of the fallout from the attack. I'll try to come up with a plan to deal with Granoa as well. I nodded. Have fun, I don't envy you. Rimuru sighed dejectedly and teleported back to Tempest. It's funny that among the three of us, Rimuru is the only one who actually works. Luminous and I just throw the work to our subordinates. I went back to my seat and sat down. How will the process of creating anti-skill work, Felix? Asked Luminous. Odin? Odin will need to modify the master's spiritual body, which may take up to 2 days. While you do this, could you also incorporate the dragon factors you were able to analyze? So you can get it all done at once? Affirmative. Great. Then, when I give the order, begin the process. Affirmative. I'll be undergoing forced sleep, similar to what happens after the Harvest Festival. Luminous nodded. I see. Did you wish for me to protect you while you were undergoing this process? I will be in a very vulnerable state, and I do trust Luminous. She is also more powerful than basically all my subordinates since she acquired an ultimate skill. In this world, quality matters more than quantity. Yeah, sure, it would be nice if you could take care of me while I'm asleep. Luminous nodded. Very well. Not a single hair on your body will be harmed. I promise you this. That's the right attitude. Let me go back to my territory and inform my subordinates that I won't be back for a little while. Who knows what they'll do if I disappear unannounced. Luminous nodded. Very well. I shall prepare a room for you. I nodded and teleported back to my territory. I immediately called for all my subordinates to gather in my office. A moment later, all of them showed up except Lalatina, who was in the middle of completing a mission for me, which is why I connected her to the conversation through our soul corridor, allowing her to participate in it. Thanks for coming. This meeting will be brief. Basically, I'm going to be out for around 2 days, but it may stretch to a few days. Very well, my lord. We shall make sure no harm comes to your territory, said Arcuaid. I nodded. Thanks. Did you wish for me to accompany you, Felix-sama? Asked Siko. It is my duty as your first secretary. I tilted my head. Screw it, why not, but just Siko. I do still want some of you to remain here to protect my territory in case the worst happens. Siko pumped her fist. Yes. A bunch of glares were sent in Siko's direction. Are you going to be fighting? Asked an excited Megaman. I shook my head. Nothing like that. I'm going to be undergoing another evolution of sorts. I'll be in an unconscious state during this, so Luminous offered to protect me. It galls me to admit it, but Luminous is powerful, I would know. And she seemed to have only gotten powerful. If you trust her, then I'm confident that she can maintain your safety unless someone like that annoying rogue attacks, said a pouting Lalatina. I had to project her voice outwards from the soul corridor we shared. I nodded. That's what I thought too. Quality trumps quantity in this world, and Luminous is pretty high up there in quality. I see, it seems that I have not been training nearly enough then, my lord, said Arcuaid. I will endeavor to correct this mistake. The rest of my subordinates nodded along with Arcuaid. I shall continue my training with renewed intensity, my lord, said Sukuna. Alright, just don't burn yourself out. You all have a very high amount of potential. I'm sure each of you will be forces to be reckoned with eventually. Do not worry, my lord. We shall reach a satisfactory level of strength before long, and then you can rely on us more, said Arcuaid. I'll be looking forward to it then. I then turned to look at Siko. Let's go. Siko nodded with a happy smile. I snapped my fingers, teleporting us back to Night Garden. Arcuaid, she watched as her lord and Siko vanished in a burst of light. It seems she has been lax in her training if her lord did not believe them to be enough to protect his unconscious body, something unforgivable in Arcuaid's mind. If they could not serve him, then what was the point of their existence? She knew she was powerful, But she also knew there were others more powerful than her, Guy for one. And it seems Luminous Valentine has recently grown more powerful going by her lord's words. Last she heard from Lalatina, Luminous was very powerful, but her fellow Primordial could keep up with her with pure technique alone. Perhaps Luminous had acquired an ultimate skill then? That was one of the ways that her combat prowess may have increased. An ultimate skill was a game changer from what her lord had described. If her flames were no longer enough, then she would have to develop something new. Perhaps she should acquire an ultimate skill of her own? I'm gonna go back to training, said Megaman. Arcuaid found herself nodding. I as well. Arcuaid imagined that Lalatina would also wish to join in once she returned from her mission. Arcuaid then turned to look at the rest of her master's subordinates. Each was incredibly powerful and would find themselves undefeated in the demon realm unless one of her kin took an interest in them. Come, if you wish to be more useful to our lord, then it is best if we group up and begin training in earnest. Our lord has made many resources available to us for such an endeavor, she said. Raiden, her lord's personal maid, nodded. She did not speak much, but she was fervent in her loyalty to their shared lord. Arcuaid could easily say that any of them would be willing to die for their lord, and so she was willing to help her fellow subordinates get up to par. In her eyes, the more useful subordinates her lord had, the better. Very well. Zijin has been a more than sufficient sparring partner, but you are my seniors in this subject, so I will rely on your wisdom, said Sukuna. She smiled, hearing him. She liked those who were obedient to her. This demon clearly knew that they had skills they could offer him, and so he showed them the proper amount of respect. Kurami transformed back into her humanoid form. Very well then. Perhaps a spar with some of you could offer me some more insight as to how to use my summoned beasts more efficiently. Well, let's go then, said Megaman, seemingly impatient to get to training. Agreed. Let us go to the training dimension our lord created for us. She spoke up. The training dimension her lord had created for his direct subordinates was a masterpiece of magic and skill. It had an increased gravity. The closer one went to the center of the dimension, the higher the gravity. There was always also a raging thunderstorm dominating the skies. A single hit from the lightning strikes was enough to even injure her, a primordial. They had all been making use of the dimension to some extent, but now they would truly begin to use it to its fullest extent. Siko and I appeared back in the lounge of Luminous Palace. My gaze drifted to Siko, who just seemed to be happy to be with me. She was adorable. She was wearing her standard purple suit, which emphasized her bust and made her look very professional. The look suited her. When I'm asleep, listen to Luminous, though within reasonable bounds. If you don't want to do something I can cover for you. In the end, you're mine and not hers. Siko blushed. Ah. You called me yours. Hee hee. While Siko was in La La Land I expanded my senses to figure out where Luminous was. Once I found her, I grabbed Siko by the shoulders. Come on, I said as I pulled her along. I navigated through Luminous's palace and eventually made my way towards the room I sensed Luminous in. I sensed quite a few extra barriers and wards were placed around it, a ward that warned Luminous of trespassing, a barrier that prevented anyone from passing through. She set up the whole works. Right as I appeared, the door to the room opened, and out came Luminous. I have had the room prepared for you, Felix, said Luminous. Give Gunter my thanks. Luminous nodded. She then looked to Siko. You brought one of your subordinates? I nodded. Siko wanted to come, and it couldn't hurt having someone extra around to protect me while you are busy. Luminous coughed lightly. Right. When I'm busy. Very well then, I am Luminous Valentine. I had spotted you a few times, but I have never had the pleasure of speaking with you. Luminous introduced herself. Siko was finally out of La La Land. Greetings, Lady Luminous. I am Siko. Felix Sama's first secretary. Era? First secretary? Then she must be quite close to you then, Felix. I nodded. Yeah, Siko is the first subordinate I acquired. She's been with me since almost right after I was summoned. The smile on Luminous' face twitched slightly as she heard him. It appeared a bit strained, yet she pushed on nonetheless. I see. I think we will be getting along, Siko. Siko nodded. Yes, I think so too. Well, you guys can get along while I'm sleeping then, I said as I walked through the door. I looked down at the bed. It was a king-sized bed, much too big for a single person. But I'm used to living in luxury at this point. I took a seat on the bed and looked at Siko and Luminous, who had entered behind me. Right, well, I'll leave my protection to you too. Luminous nodded. Do not worry, Felix. I'm not, I trust you, I said with a smile. A blush appeared on Luminous' face. Oh, of course. You would be a fool to believe that I would allow anything to happen to you. Haha, watch what you're saying, or I may take it the wrong way, Luminous. The wrong way? Do not worry, Felix-sama. I shall not allow anyone to harm you," said Zuko. I nodded. Right. I laid down on the bed and closed my eyes. Now Odin. Affirmative. I felt myself falling unconscious and did not resist. Notice. Deactivating Sataniel, Lord of Wrath in order to begin spiritual surgery. Chapter 134, Training Arc. She cheerfully made her way to the main plaza in the capital city of the Kingdom of Ingrasha. Ingrasha was a fairly impressive kingdom. Lalatina could see why it was considered the most technologically advanced kingdom in the Western nations before her master's kingdom began taking off, as well as that of Lord Rimmerou's. To be honest, her master didn't seem to care too much about kingdom building, as he put it. He simply copied what his friend, Lord Rimmerou, was doing while also adding some ideas here and there. While Lord Rimmerou's goal was to create a peaceful and happy kingdom, her master didn't care for all that. He was satisfied if his people got to live good lives, and that was it. He didn't care to technologically advance the world or anything like that, though Azeroth was an incredibly advanced kingdom. It was tied with Tempest on that front, though that was due to Lord Rimmerou's assistance. Her master had admitted as such. The various farming techniques her master knew about had revolutionized farming in Azeroth, and then there were his various ideas and methods to train up the military into not complete wastes of space. All in all, her master's territory was doing wonderfully, and she was having the time of her life serving her master. She made her way to a bench she spotted in the distance and began using the battle will art, haze, over herself, hiding herself from view. Haze was an art her master taught to her and the rest of his direct subordinates. The inferior version was Formide, where the user dilutes their presence and obstructs others' ability to recognize them. Haze is the perfected version of Formide. It offers almost unparalleled levels of concealment. She never bothered learning such a thing in the past as she never needed to. The user rids themselves of all sound. Once that is done, they erase their scent and mask their temperature. Then, the user erases their spirit and aura. At the final stage, the user is in a state in which even magicules pass straight through the user's body undisturbed, concealing them not only from the naked eye but also from sensory-type skills, including universal sense. Once she was in front of the bench, Lalatina extracted the body her master had given her from her spatial storage and began setting the scene as her master called it. It was quite impressive how her master managed to create a lifelike body such as this. She knew he had created it since he did it in front of her, but the fact that even she was not capable of telling it apart from a normal body was astounding. Her master truly was the best. Once Vega was in position, out of sheer amusement, she wrote a suicide note and tucked it into his pocket. From what she understood, her master already knew that Vega's death would not be seen as a coincidence from Cagley. No, it would be too convenient that way. That's why Lalatina decided to completely go off the ropes on this one. Cagley or whoever sent Vega wouldn't attribute such a sloppy assassination to her master. He was a true demon lord. His methods would not be so incredibly sloppy. Her master had described Cagley to her, and from what she understood, Cagley was a planner who had a much too high opinion of herself. She would overthink the entire situation and end up with a completely wrong answer. She would likely see it as Vega pissed someone off, and so he died for it, the sloppy suicide note just a method of covering the killer's tracks. This method wouldn't be perfect, but it would at least throw off whoever was in charge of Vega, if it weren't Cagley. She began whistling as she took out a handgun from her holster. She didn't normally use these. Megaman was the one that enjoyed guns the most, but they were enjoyable to use for fun missions such as this one. Her personal handgun was one modeled after the one her master had given Glinda, but it was packing much more firepower. It was at the legend grade and also had various attachments that would help her in her covert missions, such as a suppressor that even applied with magicule bullets. She stood behind the replica body of Vega and shot it in the back of the head with a magicule bullet. The moment the shot went off, the people around her began panicking. There was nothing a suppressor could do if someone witnessed the kill in front of them, and in this case, she used some gentle wind magic to push the body over, causing it to collapse in front of the bench and begin leaking blood all over the floor. Perfect? A suicide note in his pocket and a bullet hole in the back of the head. She snapped her fingers, getting rid of the magicule residue her bullet had left, and then casually began strolling away from the scene of the crime, even as the guards ran past her to deal with the disturbance. She had done the job her master ordered her to. All was right in the world. Luminous Valentine, she watched alongside Felix's subordinate as Felix fell asleep. He looked so calm now, so innocent, so... It was hard to believe that this was the same man that would tease her any chance he got. But well, at least she now knew why he did it. It's hard being so irresistible. Poor Felix didn't stand a chance. She thought with a faint smile as she looked at the sleeping demon. Yet, as she looked at him, she began to think, and she was beginning to realize that Felix was far more mysterious than she could have imagined. First off, she had no clue as to how Felix would be granting himself anti-skill. Even in all her years, she had never heard of a method to modify one's own spiritual body without a massive amount of risk and a high chance of death. It would be one thing if he had asked her for help, but he hadn't. Modifying one's spiritual body was no easy feat, after all. She might even say it was impossible. The only person she could think of who could possibly do such a thing would be her father. Twilight Valentine may have been a madman, but no one could deny his genius. Even she was his creation, after all, his perfect creation. It was something that caused some of her siblings to harbor jealousy. But she trusted Felix and knew he would not risk himself to acquire anti-skill. He must be confident in his safety. He did not seem like one to risk his very life for something like anti-skill, even if it would help solve one of her biggest issues. The only risk here should theoretically just be falling unconscious and being vulnerable to attacks. Unless Felix was trying to impress her and was willing to take a risk to his life for such a thing. She felt her hands clench as she considered the fact that Felix could be in real danger now. He was the type of fool to do such a thing, after all. Her eyes wandered over his handsome sleeping face, his chiseled chest, and then lower down his body. Luminous blushed and turned away once she realized where she was looking. Damn Lalitina. It was because of that damn picture Lalitina had given her that she had toyed with herself while imagining Felix doing unspeakable things to her. Ah. I see, I see. Luminous turned to Felix's so-called secretary, who was nodding with an understanding look on her face. What? She asked. It seems you are interested in Felix Sama as well. Do not attempt to hide it. I saw where your eyes were wandering and that look of concern on your face, said Zuko. She blushed after being called out by Felix's subordinate. It's nothing like that, she argued, but Felix's subordinate seemed to treat her words as air, completely unimportant. Do not worry. I will not judge you for your affection for Felix Sama. In fact, I can only applaud you for having the correct taste, said Zuko with a proud smile. I see. Hee, if you'd like, I can share many things about Felix Sama with you, declared Zuko. Now, she was interested. Felix had said that Zuko was his first subordinate, so surely she had some embarrassing stories she could hold over Felix's head later. Right? She was definitely not interested because she wanted to know more about Felix in general. No, she was not. This was all purely teasing material for the future. Her mind then wandered back to when Felix had approached her during their discussion earlier. When he had loomed over her, close enough for her to bask in his scent. His smell, combined with his presence, was enough to make her panties wet. She had even felt some of her juices begin to leak down her thighs, which excited her even more at the possibility of Felix noticing it. That only made it harder for her to stay still while they were talking. Once Felix and Rimuru left, she had to change them. When she took a look at her panties, she found that they were completely drenched through. She did not think that she was that into playing the submissive role, but she was well aware that she had ended up finding pleasure in pain. She had to in order to enjoy rubbing herself against the holy arc that burned her very skin off. However, she hadn't felt anything similar ever before, only Felix managed to bring that reaction out of her for some reason, and she was not quite sure why. He had even said he trusted her back then, and she now truly believed it after Felix showed her such a frankly broken ability. Traveling to different dimensions had so much utility. One could travel to other worlds and recruit from there freely. Some other world may even be similar to the Cardinal world, where Felix could acquire unique equipment and other gear, not to mention if things ever get bad, then Felix can just flee to another dimension. Such an ability was not lightly shared. She could feel her heart skip a beat when she considered the fact that Felix had such trust in her. She thought back to every moment she had interacted with him. Their first meeting, where he outed her identity out of pettiness yet still provided her a full potion due to not wanting her to suffer too much. That full potion would later be the reason she was able to save Hinata's life. Then, her meeting with him shortly after, where he told her about Hinata's misadventures. During this time, he also teased her, much to her annoyance in the past, but now she could only look back at those times with fondness. Their next meeting was not even a meeting, really. They had just spotted each other at the festival, and for once, Felix seemingly respected her desires and did not out her to everyone. The next time they met was when Hinata was sent to the past. Felix had attempted to comfort her and had even told her about Hinata surviving, likely out of concern for her since, at that point, he would not have known about her involvement with Granoa in the past. Their meeting was fairly enjoyable. Despite the circumstances, Felix would keep cracking jokes, and Rimuru would rebuke him. It was during that time that she began seeing him and Rimuru as friends. Felix may have been an annoyance, but sometimes, annoyances grow on you like a fungus that refuses to leave. He had even gifted her Laplace, even if Felix was technically the one who defeated Laplace, which she appreciated. She got to work off some of her anger and experiment with Asmodeus, though now she just left him in an artificially induced coma in her dungeons. And then, Lalatina showed up and stroked the embers of her desires with her detailed commentary and that image of Felix. She would be the first to admit that she was a very horny vampire, but she was easily capable of suppressing her desires and dealing with them herself should she desire to do so. Then their further meetings, the date between them, the discussions the two of them had, the planning, all of it was enjoyable for Luminous. Perhaps she had been interested in Felix from the start and was simply denying her desires? It was possible. Felix was conventionally attractive, he was caring to those he saw as close, he was powerful, a trait every woman in this world looked for in a man, and he was likable, even despite his tendency to tease her. He also respected her power, even if she would grudgingly admit he was likely more powerful than her. He did not hold his power over her head and look down on her for it. He respected her and looked at her as a fellow peer. In fact, he had even urged her to grow more powerful, seemingly out of worry for her, which was adorable. She had heeded his words and developed several new techniques that would leave her former self in the dust. He was not put off by her pride either. In fact, he seemed to be almost amused when she would act prideful with him. Normally, that would insult her, but with Felix, she just didn't. Not to mention the backstory Hinata and Chloe gave about him. Hinata made him out to be a prankster but someone with a good, caring heart underneath it all. He had even taken Hinata under his wing and attempted to turn her into a heroine that would be feared by all and even seemingly blessed her, something that was not done lightly. She could admit he fit her type of man, except for his excessive teasing. Other than that, he was practically perfect. She had been quite hesitant to get into romance. Her father left a bad taste in her mouth when it came to that. The entire reason she purged him was due to his desire to breed her, to create an even more perfect creation, something that soured her from romance for a very long time. The only time after that she grew to genuinely care for anyone else in a romantic sense was Granoa, and now it was Felix. Perhaps they were just spiritually compatible as well. Spiritual beings like them looked at love differently, rather than the fleeting romance that it was for mortals. Love for spiritual life forms was just as much spiritual as it was physical and psychological. Sometimes, one simply meets someone that matches with them well and finds themselves growing closer to them over time. Oh. She was in trouble, wasn't she? She felt her cheeks flush and her heart start pounding as she considered the possibility that she had grown to truly love Felix. It didn't hurt that, by extension, she would be able to grow closer to Hinata, but as she was recently finding, Hinata and Chloe weren't the subject of her main desire any longer. Sure, they were still there, but she felt that as long as she had Felix, she would move past them. She still looked at them like her beloved friends and would always admire the frankly attractive bodies they both held. But there were not many in this world that would be willing to treat her casually, like friends. Granoa was the first to do such a thing, and now that she was looking back on it, perhaps she was desperate for someone and had latched on. That someone did not need to be Granoa. In the absence of Granoa, it seems Felix had filled that role. She felt her core slicken as she imagined herself lying with Felix. Something about Felix White turned her on, and it was infuriating but also immensely arousing. Then her mind shifted to when they had gone on that date together. She was truly enjoying her time with Felix back then, and was even eager for more if that idiot Sir had not interrupted him. She could see herself being completely fine and even happy with just sitting in her lounge and talking the day away. She genuinely enjoyed spending time with Felix despite his insistent teasing of her. Even that had its own charm and made for an interesting dynamic between them. Ah, she truly was in danger, wasn't she? Perhaps she should take Siko's offer then. Very well then. I find your terms acceptable. She responded to Siko's earlier question. All right then. But it will cost you. Siko said. She raised a brow. Oh? And what will it cost me? Siko nodded with a determined expression. I wish to use your kitchen. I want to surprise Felix-sama with an amazing meal when he wakes up. Lumina's expression softened hearing that. She could respect Siko's desire to make Felix happy with a good homely meal. Very well then. I will have Gunter guide you to the kitchen later. In fact, even I had a passion for cooking in the past, perhaps I will also prepare a meal for Felix. He can enjoy both of our hard work. Now that she had confronted and accepted her feelings, she felt the desire to enjoy the simple things with Felix. Going out, cooking for him, talking with him, and just enjoying each other's company sounded wonderful to Luminous. Hee hee. I won't lose to you, Lady Luminous, said Siko. Foo-fa-foo, we shall see. Hobbies in this day and age must be cherished. As an immortal life form, having something one truly enjoys is a blessing on its own. And you may just call me Luminous. Siko nodded. Yes, Luminous. Now, I wish to hear these stories. Sakio nodded. Got it. She gestured to Siko to take a seat on one of the couches in the room. Once they were seated, Luminous found her gaze wandering to Felix. One thing she did notice was that as Felix fell unconscious, the aura he emitted weakened in its intensity. It was still monstrous, far above her own by multiple times, but it was not quite as powerful as it normally was. Perhaps he had some ability to increase his combat power, and he simply deactivated it in order to grant himself Andy skill? That would be another incredibly powerful skill in Felix's arsenal. She gazed longingly towards Felix, hoping that he made it out of this spiritual surgery of his completely okay. She reluctantly shifted her gaze from Felix to Siko. Now start from the beginning, she told Siko. Raiden felt the pressure of gravity push her down far more than she was ever used to. She had used the gravity training rooms her master had created, but she had never pushed herself as she had recently begun to do. She could feel her body growing stronger over time as she grew used to the gravitational pressure. It was not much, but progress was progress. Ever since her master had left his protection to Lady Luminous, she had felt disappointed in herself. What was the purpose of a maid if she was unable to serve? If she was not powerful enough to protect her master, then she would simply have to become powerful enough. Recently, she had been training with the three strongest subordinates her lord had, Arcuade, Megaman, and Lalatina. Each of them had much more combat experience than her, and they were willing to spar with her from time to time and exploit her weaknesses. After that, she would work on neutralizing those weaknesses. It was a rinse and repeat process. Now, she was facing one of the strongest beings she knew. Midrei stood across from her, his stance casual. "Oh, I was surprised to receive your message, Raiden," said Midrei. Midrei was perhaps the strongest draconic being she knew, barring Lady Milim and the True Dragons. The man was a beast in combat and had spent over 2,000 years honing his martial arts and abilities. It's thanks to that dedication that even Arcuade, Megaman, and Lalatina recognized him and stated that as they weren't sure if they could pull off a victory against him. Her master had mentioned that Midrei had divinity as well, allowing his attacks to affect even those with ultimate skills. Her master had said he had an EP of approximately 2,500,000, higher than even Megaman. "I wish to grow stronger to be more useful to my master," she calmly stated. Midrei nodded, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Very well. Your drive is acceptable. Lady Milim has approved my short visit to Lord Felix's territory. Let us not waste any more time. Come, let us begin your cultivation. This training room is truly ingenious. I can already see how such a thing could help train young dragons and dragonettes." She nodded and began using her extra skill, All-Seeing Eye, which caused her vision to sharpen and expand. She could see much farther than she normally would be capable of, and her field of view extended a full 360 degrees around herself. When combined with her thought acceleration and magic sense, it made for a fearsome combination. That was not enough to take on Midrei, however. In a blink, Midrei was in front of her, his fist drawn back and glowing with his fighting spirit. His punch alone had shattered the sound barrier, a shockwave echoing throughout the dimension. Raiden had barely reacted in time, likely due to Midrei still holding back, she suspected. She instantly began using partial dragonification, something she had been practicing. Azure-colored scales quickly sprouted over her arm, forming a gauntlet. She managed to block Midrei's punch, but the impact sent cracks spider-webbing through her scales. Pain shot up her arm, but she gritted her teeth and channeled blue lightning through her arm, causing Midrei to wince slightly and jump back. "That's some fierce lightning you got there, girl," Midrei complimented, his voice a mix of amusement and approval, even as he ignored the rapidly rising temperature. She nodded, appreciating the praise but not letting it distract her. She quickly spewed a lightning breath towards Midrei in the hopes of stalling for a few extra moments. Midrei casually slapped away her lightning, but that was more than enough time for her to prepare her next move. In the sky above them, massive thunderclouds were gathering. Her master had linked the dimension to the real world in such a way that there was weather to be manipulated. Midrei, seemingly sensing the possible danger, quickly began absorbing the surrounding magicules, entering a battle state of sorts. His scales turned black, his muscles bulged, and his overall size had increased. Raiden could sense the sheer amount of danger Midrei now radiated. "Ha ha ha, good, good. Show me more of your power, Raiden," he roared. The moment after Midrei spoke, a colossal bolt of white lightning was discharged from the sky. The lightning bolt rapidly heated the surrounding air to temperatures surpassing 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was aimed solely at Midrei. According to her master, this strike held enough power to outdo even the greatest of nuclear explosions, whatever that was. Her wings quickly unfurled behind her, and she quickly soared into the skies,